Call to order for the June 21st, 2021 City Council regular meeting. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to be back in chambers. It's been, I think, 15 or 16 months since we've been in here, and quite a while since we've had real live humans in front of us. So thank you for joining us today. Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Mayor Turco?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink?
Here.
Councilmember Bates?
Here.
Councilmember Goby?
Here.
Councilmember Napolka?
Here.
Thank you. Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads with me. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we are just so thankful that we're able to return to some sort of normalcy. We just thank you for just giving us all the blessings and that we've come through this time, hopefully a lot unscathed. We just ask that you bless our residents and bless our businesses as they continue to come back into normal and prosper, and just help us with our attitudes, or just everything, Jesus. We just ask that you give protection still to our first responders, all of our healthcare workers that are still going through some of this. And we just ask that you protect everybody and continue to bless us. In your precious name, amen.
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 Okay, next we've got a number of presentations. Let me get my mask as I come down.
Oh, is that?
Thank you. Okay, our first presentation today is to Marilyn Poe, and when we're doing presentations, they always give us a paragraph to read about this person's accomplishments or contributions. Look at Marilyn's. So I'm going to read it, so please be patient, but it is very impressive. And Marilyn is here to receive the California Parks and Recreation Society District 10 Volunteer Merit Award. She is receiving this today. Marilyn has played an integral role in the city of Los Alamitos and Orange County region by volunteering for numerous organizations, all while raising her family of 3 children. I've seen at least 2 of them here. Okay. And working as a tax preparer for 43 years. Marilyn was appointed to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Commission of Los Alamitos in 1988 and served until elected to City Council in November of 1994, where she served for 12 years, including with Councilmember Bates, right? She was elected to mayor in 1999 and 2003, and then was reelected to council in 2008 and served as mayor in 2010, so 3-time mayor. While in office, she served on many county and state committees, including Orange County Fire Authority, Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, Orange Council of Governments, I think that's Orange County Council of Governments, Southern California Association of Governments. And over the last 30 years, she also volunteered for the Los Alamitos PTA, Los Alamitos Girls Softball League, Los Alamitos Youth Center, Los Alamitos Museum, Los Alamitos High School Football Foundation, Partners for Solutions Family Resource Center, St. Isidore Historical Plaza, PAC for the Future, Serve Los Al, and the Rossmore Los Alamitos Republican Women Federated. The City of Los Alamitos would like to thank her for her endless dedication and service to the community for over 30 years. Congratulations, Marilyn, on receiving the California Parks and Recreation Society District 10 Volunteer Merit Award, nominated by the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Commission. And we have some commissioners here as well. Did you want to say something?
I think you covered it all.
Okay. Did you want to come on up, Marilyn? I think we've got. And you want to say something as well? Oh, I think they're taking pictures, and then we'll give you a chance to say something.
I'm smiling, trust me.
Yes, we're smiling.
We'll have these masks on soon, one of these days. So.
Well, no, you don't want to ask me to speak, because I never shut up.
No, that's fine.
This is quite an honor, and I know that Emmeline had a lot to do with this. Thank you so much. You know, people in the community don't do things in their community to get awards. We were raised, my husband and I, we were raised to give to our community. Our parents did it, and it was just a natural thing for us. And I will say that anything I've done in the community, I've always received more than I've given. So for anyone out there that feels like they want to, participate, just jump in with both feet. Don't ask what for, just do it, because you'll be glad you did. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes, good idea. Marilyn's family, if you can please come up. I see Bill
Is there enough room for them all?
coming up. No? No?
All of you, come on.
That's all right. Hey, Bill. How are you? Good to see you. Dr. Poe, I should say. Dentist to the stars. Oh, come on, squeeze in with grandma or mom.
Oh, wow.
I'm fine. Smile with your eyes.
Thank you. Okay, next we will have a presentation of certificates of recognition of the grand prize winners of the Print Masters Art Contest. Personally, I participated as one of the judges in this, and I thought, oh, some kids are doing art. This will be fun. I'll show my family. We were completely blown away by the level of artistic ability, the creativity. We just couldn't believe it. It was also a little depressing too, because my artistic abilities are terrible. My kids are better, but I'll read through this first. Okay. Let me start by describing Nisi Stewart and her staff, and I saw her husband Carl here as well. The staff at Print Masters found themselves in a meeting, brainstorming ways they could give back to the local community. Through the work Nisi was doing with the school district and conversations with family and friends, she knew that students in our area were in need of a positive outlet as they adjusted to the ever-changing circumstances of COVID-19 and distance learning. She said, "We need to do something for the students." And from there, she and the team came up with the idea to host an art contest that would benefit both students and nonprofit organizations in Los Alamitos. The contest ran from January to April, and Nisi and her staff were thrilled with the feedback. Student comments included, "This contest is perfect during the crazy times we're experiencing." And "Thank you, Print Masters, for holding such a fun and inspiring art contest for the students of Los Al, and for the opportunity to give back to our community." This family-owned business feels both accomplished and humbled to know they have been able to reach their goal in helping young local artists. The contest has brought uplifting stories of motivation from participants and resulted in the publishing of a book. 100% of the proceeds of book sales are donated to Casa Youth Shelter, the Youth Center, and LAIF, the Los Alamitos Education Foundation. So congratulations to the grand prize winner. Nisi, why don't you come up while we're giving them their certificates? This is Nisi Stewart, everyone. Very, very involved in our community. Okay, so you want to read them off here? Why don't you read them off? You want me to do it?
All right. So our grand prize winner in the elementary age group of 6 to 8 years old is Ashna Patel.
Great job.
All right. In the elementary age group 9 to 11, Alistair Wu.
Is everybody smiling back here? All right.
In the middle school category, Felicia Rosen.
Felicia. Great job.
And our high school winner is Jacqueline Ng. And in our college division, McKenna Madison. Have everyone-
Yeah, sure. We'll do one picture with the whole group, if that's okay.
I just want to say thank you to the City Council and the City of Los Alamitos for your support through this contest, and want to invite everyone on Friday to an open house where you can see the artwork of all our winners and other contestants.
Where's the open house? Print Masters on Los Alamitos Boulevard. 11 to 8. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you to all the participants and the winners as well. Of course. Thank you. Okay, one more presentation. One more presentation that I will be reading. This presentation is a proclamation to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Commission. We have at least two of the commissioners, three of the commissioners. Any more? It's like bingo over here. For Parks Make Life Better Month, here's the proclamation. So everyone knows Los Alamitos, parks are a big deal here. Recreation's a big deal. The sense of community that we have is a really big deal here. Our residents value recreation. It provides positive alternatives for children and youth to reduce crime and mischief, especially during non-school hours. It also promotes the arts. It increases social connections, aids in therapy, and promotes lifelong learning. Residents value their parks for access to outdoor spaces for children and adults to play and be active, exercise, and also group sports as well. And residents here benefit from the wide range of parks, sports fields, tennis courts, facilities, arts, programs including and programs, and the Coyote Creek Park, Little Cottonwood Park, Laurel Park, Weekend of Art. I don't see Orville Lewis Park on there. Why is Orville Lewis Park not on there? It's my park. Race Los Al, 4th of July fireworks spectacular, Winter Wonderland, day camp, park programs, senior programs, youth sports, adult sports, classes, and more provided by the City of Los Alamitos. Our city is small, our staff is small, but it's mighty. The things that we do, other much bigger cities notice and are impressed by, and our residents, you talk to any resident here, and they'll probably tell you one of the things they love here is all the events and programs that our city provides. The parks are great. There's just so much to love here. And the council urges all its residents to recognize that parks and recreation enriches the lives of the residents and visitors, as well as adding value to the community's homes and neighborhoods. The Los Alamitos Council hereby proclaims July 1st through 31st, 2021 as Parks Make Life Better Month throughout the city of Los Alamitos. With that, I'll provide this proclamation to Alex. Would you like to say anything, Alex?
A few words.
Perfect.
Good evening. My name is Alex Duran. I'm the chair for the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts Department. On behalf of all of us on the commission, we want to thank you for acknowledging this, but really the people this really goes to is Emlyn and her team. They do amazing work with all the activities that they provide for the community. I heard one person say at a town hall meeting, this is an organization, a department that literally does miracles with absolutely nothing. They always are dedicated, come up with great creative ideas, everything from the upcoming 4th of July fireworks to the pet clinic, the dog park, the family picnic, all these events, all of it's on the back of your form, the magazine that you get, the brochure. Please make sure you attend. These are amazing events. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you and the council and everyone for acknowledging us on this day.
Thank you. Picture? Yes. All right. Yep. And next, we're going to have a presentation by Laura Young, Director of Communications of the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. She will be providing an update on activity in the city.
All right, good evening, and thank you so much for taking time to have me speak. I'm really going to focus on mosquitoes because we're entering into mosquito season, and I want you to be aware of what the residents are going to be asking of us as a district and what you may hear on your social media sites and at city council meetings as they come up. Do I see the PowerPoint? Oh, there you go. So just a little bit about our district. I know we have a couple of past and current board members, but we do have a 35-member board. We have a representative from each city as well as one county at large. They all represent the County of Orange when making decisions on behalf of the district. And we have a $15.5 million operating budget. Most of that is we are very staff heavy as we have one inspector out in every city every day, business day that we're working. So I'm really focusing on mosquitoes, and we have over 27 different mosquitoes in Orange County, but there's only a few that are really impacting the residents in their urban environments. A lot of them are wetlands or rarely seen. So we have our southern house mosquito as well as our 380s mosquitoes. I tell people you don't need to ID a mosquito, you see it, you just kill it. I am going to talk about our West Nile virus mosquito, which is our southern house mosquito first, because we are entering into West Nile virus season. What we classify as West Nile virus season, we start to see virus activity in our mosquitoes and birds around June and July, and we go typically till about September and October. And that's because birds migrate, so birds are the predominant hosts of West Nile virus, and the mosquitoes get them when they feed on the birds. Last year we had a mild to moderate year, which means we had about 284 West Nile virus positive mosquito samples. We actually had 19 West Nile virus human cases. I apologize for that error, not 9 at the end of the year, and we had 38 birds that tested positive. In Los Alamitos, we had 5 West Nile virus positive mosquito samples, and the city is always notified on that first sample. We send an email to city staff and let them know what active measures we're taking to notify the residents. So overall in Orange County, you'll notice a lot of our work in graphs are at 2004. It's because we didn't have the virus in California until 2004, and in the county specifically, it came in through the East Coast and traveled across the country. So you can see 2014 and 15 were really high years of human infection, and in 2014 we were actually the county leading the nation in West Nile virus infections and deaths. So we have spent from 2015 going through our processes and procedures to make sure we can prevent any future epidemics of that nature from occurring. And you can see we've slowly reduced the number of human infections by being proactive in targeting those mosquitoes, as well as education with our residents. So one of the measures we took is identifying where people were really at risk for West Nile virus. Now, Los Alamitos is sort of on the periphery of this, but you're still there and you still have virus activity, so residents do need to still take precautions. But most of our activity is happening in that central northern area, and that's because that's the most urban area. We have a lot of people in a very small area. It also has a very low gradient, so there isn't very much water flow from our underground storm drains, where if you look at South County, it's very hilly and water flows pretty well. It's also an older area of the county, so infrastructure is aging, you have more uprooted gutters, things of that nature. So what we do is we set out a trap in every 4 square miles of that area, and we do have a trap that gets set weekly at Los Alamitos City Hall as well. And then if that trap does go positive, then we activate future traps around that to sort of delineate where we get the most virus activity. And this is just an example of last year. The district does set over 100 traps per week to catch the mosquitoes, and then we test all those mosquitoes weekly. We test everything on site, so we get results the next day. We don't send it out. So we have a full service lab. By doing that, we are able to respond to our surveillance data rapidly and make decisions and be proactive in what we're going to do. And when I say what we're going to do, we use integrated vector management, which is sort of a stepping stone on how we address issues. So the first one is always early intervention, and that's education, outreach, and then making sure the residents are aware of what's going on in their community. So if they're getting, they have West Nile virus within their neighborhood, we post signs. We target it through next door targeted neighborhoods. We post on the social media. We outreach to the city to make sure they're letting their residents know. Next, we send out our inspectors to go look and see where the mosquitoes are coming from, and if we can identify any unknown mosquito breeding sources. And if we can reduce those sources. So if we can get rid of the water, we solve half the problem. If we can't get rid of the water, then we have to treat that water. And we hope to always treat it in the larval source or the immature source. It's easier to treat water than to catch a flying mosquito, if any of you have tried to catch a mosquito. So we always want to treat it before they actually hatch out to adults. And then we continue with our surveillance. We have to note that we can go to an emergency response, and that's that's typically an adult mosquito control. And that's when we see a level of number of mosquitoes or virus activity that could put our residents at risk for getting West Nile virus or any other disease. And that's when we take those measures, which is either putting a truck out that'll do an adulticide, and or we can do backpack and do a smaller area. So I want to shift gears a little bit, because this is probably what's really impacting your residents, which is the Aedes mosquito. First introduced in 2015, and I'll just go really quickly through this. You can see it's expanding rapidly. By 2020, we have covered over 102 square miles of the county with this mosquito being infested. Those are just our known and confirmed Aedes confirmations, but really we hear from residents in every city are being impacted by this mosquito. And why they're being impacted is because it's a very aggressive day biter. It also has, versus our West Nile virus mosquito that breeds in large areas like flood channels, unmaintained swimming pools, this mosquito prefers smaller sources, water pot saucers, gutters, pet bowls, tarps, anything that has even an inch of water can breed this mosquito. So most of this mosquito's breeding is occurring in residential backyards, front yards, or urban areas due to over-irrigation, overwatering. The other unique ability about this mosquito that has developed over time is it lays its eggs in singular eggs, and they can survive in dry conditions for up to 2 years. So if you have a plant that your mom gifted you and the eggs are on there, and you let it dry and you water it a year later, and the water now fills up the plant, these eggs are still viable and they'll hatch out into an adult. And that's how it's spread rapidly throughout not only California, but throughout the nation. So this is what the eggs look like. Most people mistake them for specks of dirt and don't even see them. I always tell people if you have lucky bamboo, you're sort of unlucky. You most likely have mosquitoes too. Especially with lucky bamboo, most people sit it in standing water to make sure it survives. It can be potted. It just grows more rapidly when it's potted, so people don't prefer that. So those elements, we always discourage people from having lucky bamboo and bromeliads, but if you really want them, you just have to maintain them on a weekly basis to prevent mosquito breeding. And the reason we're so adamant about that is because the Aedes mosquito can also complete their whole life cycle while living inside your home. So if you have a plant and a water source, they'll breed in that, they'll go bite someone, they'll come back and they'll breed again in that water source. And we have seen it. We've seen these Aedes eggs in unused sinks, in the little U area of the unused sinks that may have a little bit of water collected. We've seen them in unused Keurigs that hold water at the bottom, in tarps, in flower pots, in flower vases with cut flowers that have just been left out and nobody tosses them away. And like I said, they're very aggressive. They bite on the lower legs. And although for a resident, they may not delineate between the different types of mosquitoes, it's important to note if you're being bitten multiple times and below the legs, the source is most likely within your home or your neighbor's home. And that's really the difference between these two mosquitoes. So with service requests, because as these new mosquitoes are introduced in neighborhoods, we have gotten an increase in service requests. So last year, we did see a significant increase in Los Alamitos as these mosquitoes expanded into more neighborhoods in the area. It's just more of an informational for you. We do see a decrease in mosquito requests this year, and we're not quite sure why. If people are more out and about as COVID restrictions ease and they're going to areas that may not have them. But we did see an increase last year because most people were at home and realized they had a lot of vectors in their home. The other thing I want to address, because this is one of the most common questions we get from the residents of Los Alamitos, is we get calls for flood channels and gutters, and people assuming that the mosquito breeding is occurring in that. And in some cases, yes, mosquito breeding does occur in flood channels and creeks, and as well as gutters and catch basins. For the most part, our team inspects every mile of flood channels and creeks within the city of Los Alamitos. Breeding is found, and when it's found, it's treated on a 16-day cycle. As it gets warmer, that cycle speeds up, so our inspectors are out more often. So in most cases, there is breeding, but it's controlled and they never hatch out to adults. The important thing to note is we will get a lot of calls saying, but I see water. And the reason is we don't clear out those flood channels. We don't come out and like with the leaves, you can see, and these are actually Los Alamitos flood channels in the pictures. We don't clean out the debris, we just treat the water that's there. We don't have the authority to come out and clean flood channels. In some instances, they're waters of the US and require some permitting. Not in all instances, but in some of them. We also have underground catch basins, and it's important to note nobody thinks about the city that's under our feet with flood channels, underground catch basins, gutters. So we do inspect those and treat them as needed. If they're not breeding at the time of treatment, we continue to inspect them until about the end of summer, and then we taper off our inspections because we know breeding is going to decrease. So really, for you as city leaders, it's really essential, and we love working with you because you can spread the message to your constituents and your residents that this is a shared responsibility and we all have to do our part. And that's not just maintaining your own property now, it's talking to your neighbors and making sure people are aware of the importance of this issue. And also, we work with the City of Los Alamitos staff, so we're really thankful for them for participating in our summer campaign and being active in that, promoting any of our programs we have. I know they promoted our science kits during COVID, and we got a lot of residents that were participating on that. So we're big on education, not only for our youth community, but our adults as well. We do presentations for HOAs. We were just out and did 2 presentations for different HOAs in the city as well. So we're going to continue educating our residents to make sure they're aware of the message. And I wanted to keep it short. I could talk for hours on this topic, but I'm sure you don't want to hear about mosquitoes for hours. So I am available for questions, or you can always email me. Councilmember Dobby has my email, and so does Wendy as well. So.
Any questions? I've got a couple. So
Okay.
I'm not surprised you said there's less calls this year, because last year I noticed a ton of these Aedes, they're like zombie mosquitoes. They come back no matter how many years they've been dormant. I'm not noticing any this year. Is there, and maybe it'll come later this summer, hopefully not, but is there any thought that something different is going on this year?
We can only speculate. So I can tell you the Aedes mosquitoes peak time is late September, early October. That's when we see the most activity. The other thing, we thought maybe there would be some activity on private pest control, but when we looked at them, they have a reduction in service as well. So maybe the drought may have an issue with that, where people are not watering as much or the water isn't sitting there, but those are all speculations. I can't tell you why.
Okay.
So-
And then one other question. I used to be on the Mosquito and Vector Control District for a couple of years, and I remember a presentation about this, and then I've read about this in some articles as well about different jurisdictions using these genetically engineered sterile mosquitoes to try to drive down the population of Aedes. I think maybe Fresno and Florida. I saw that. Is there any talk about doing something like that here?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So it's a sterile insect technique. There's 3 different techniques, which is genetically modified irradiation, which is radiating the male mosquitoes, and then infecting the male mosquitoes with a bacteria, which is Wolbachia, which prevents the female eggs from being viable. All those address the male mosquitoes, and then you release a large amount of male mosquitoes. We are looking into that technology and to see, none of it is currently approved for use in California, although other portions of the nation are doing it. Fresno did a test study, that's why they were allowed. So we're looking at it, and it's just another tool in our tool belt that we want to be able to use, because we realize that these mosquitoes can also transmit disease, and we need to be proactive in controlling them.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have Sergeant Chris Lee giving us a PowerPoint presentation. Did I say that correctly?
The last time.
Sounded good,
All right,
sir.
I'll get it eventually.
It's a powerful presentation.
Being there. All right. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for having me here this evening. Get it up here. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. I am Sergeant Lee with your police department, and I act as the HLO coordinator. Tonight, I'd like to give you a brief update on the homeless population and situation within our city. All right. I don't like transitions and slides, so don't be scared. It just comes up as a lot of text. Basically, from our field observations on the HLO team, at any given time, we have, do you guys mind if I take this off?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Not at all. My glasses keep,
Yes, Fran, live. Okay.
thank you. All right, we have between 6 and 8, what I'll refer to as active or habitual transients at any given time. That's bored out a little further down in some data analysis. We see over the last about 18 months, 9 names that habitually come up in our calls for service. So what these habitual transients are, or resident transients, these are people who have typically a tie to the city, whether they were displaced from their homes over the last years typically, or there's some connection to the city itself. Now, many of the calls we get are not from this group of people. They're more like, I refer to them as pass-through transients. Now, these are people who come to our city for a, and this will sound weird, a transient business or something like that. What I mean by that is, if you think about a homeless population, many of these people do not have medical insurance. So any medical issue that they have is an emergency room visit, for instance. We have a hospital. We also have outreach organizations that are well known within the community, so they come here for services, but they aren't tied necessarily to the city itself. So that's where you see kind of temporarily in the area for services, not necessarily setting up a camp or shelters. About half of our calls for service are for unnamed subjects, and I know somebody's going to say, well, wait a second, how do you guys not know the name? Remember, most things that people call on transients about aren't crimes. So from the police department's perspective, we don't have a legal standing to demand identification. We simply go up, make sure that they're okay, make sure they're not committing a crime,
And if they're not, many times we may not get their information. So that's why about half of our calls for service don't have a name tied to them. As far as our call volume, over the last about 18 months, we're looking at about 5.3 to 5.4% of our calls for service generated by our community being transient related. Now, this can be anything from a caller to our dispatch center calling up and saying, there's a homeless person sleeping in the park. It could also be a suspicious person. It could be a welfare check. Somebody is down on the ground. What our crime analyst has done is gone back through actually all the call notes and flagged all of our calls for service that reference homeless or transient. That's how the 5.4% number comes up. This doesn't include any sort of officer-initiated activity. This is purely calls coming into the Westcom Dispatch Center. Typically these calls, and again this is also from our dispatch logs, take about 15 minutes per call. And you're looking at about 400 calls on an annual basis. So you can do the math. We're in it, 100 hours or so of officer time on these identified calls. And as far as areas go, this shouldn't be much of a surprise, because if you think about your normal lives, coming and going in the cities, going out to dinner, whatever it happens to be, you spend most of your time probably on Los Alamitos Boulevard or Catella Avenue. If you're there a lot, you're going to notice a lot. And that's why most of our calls come out in that area. You know, somebody here may jog on the Riverbed Trail, but not everybody does. As far, one of the questions that I get a lot, there's a great stretch with some landscaping. It's, oh, come on, it's cool. Yeah. As far as some of our common calls for service, one of the things that I get asked a lot about is camp locations. Let me differentiate, or let me explain what a camp is. Now, camp is, I'm going to call it a semi-permanent dwelling. Okay, these are the things that you may see. Let's see here, Wardlow and Norwalk, behind the storage facility there, behind the Taco Bell. That parking lot area, that's what I would consider a camp. So people have gone in there and established some form of shelter beyond a simple lean-to and a sleeping bag. These camps tend to have multiple inhabitants. A lot of times you may see improvements, if you will, barbecues, fire pits. The one down at the 405 and 605 intersection, that has recently been cleaned up, there was actually a bike repair shop there.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
I just know it kept growing.
Well, yeah, but there was a
they
bike
got
repair shop
industrious.
there. There was a guy in there who made side money by fixing other transients' bikes. Yeah. It's an interesting little economy going on. The actual camp locations there, 2 of the 3 that I've pointed out, these are the major camps that we get calls, and I assume all of you get calls on as well. 2 of the 3 have been cleaned up. Willow and the 605, that happened within the last several weeks, as well as the 605, 405 was about 4 to 6 weeks ago. Wardlow and Norwalk still exists. One thing I would like to point out to everybody who's not familiar with a GIS map on this, none of these are within the city of Los Alamitos. These are all primarily a Long Beach jurisdiction or a special district jurisdiction. For instance, Caltrans, LA Department of Water and Power, things like that. What we do, my team and the department, we reach out to these other jurisdictions and certainly advise. Maybe burritos have been exchanged in meetings and try to get some cooperation with the other counties. Recently, they've been very responsive as far as when we started these communications. And I'll talk a little bit about the intra-county cooperation that we have as well. So again, these are all outside. And something to note is within our city, we don't have what I would consider a campsite. So a Los Alamitos encampment is one person or maybe a couple with a couple of bedrolls, a backpack, and a shopping cart or something like that. And they tend to move along. Okay, I'm not saying somebody does it. You won't find somebody sleeping on the softball fields at 5 o'clock in the morning, but they're not there when the sun comes up, or they're gone shortly after. They don't have this permanent footprint or semi-permanent footprint. All of this is being maintained here within our city primarily through the HLO team. Right now we're staffed with myself as the supervisor. I have 4 officers on my team as well. Please keep in mind, this is all a collateral duty for us. So I'm also a patrol, in my circumstances, I'm a patrol watch commander as well. My main job is directing the patrol activities on a given shift for about 25% of the week. And my officers, the HLO officers, are also primarily assigned to patrol. Unlike some of the other cities you may have interacted with, we don't have a dedicated, for instance, Anaheim has a dedicated HLO team.
Yeah.
Orange County Sheriff's has a dedicated full-time staff HLO team. So this is what we do in addition. As far as the training goes on our HLO officers, all of our officers go through an 8-hour HLO training. This is a post-certified course offered by Anaheim PD. We also include additional training in de-escalation and crisis intervention. So remember, many of these people may have mental issues or substance abuse issues, so our officers are trained to be able to go out there, de-escalate, and use verbal techniques to try to ascertain if they need help or to try to get compliance and cooperation. Our partners over at Orange County Sheriff's will be bringing on a 40-hour course. If you've never reviewed the post catalog, a 40-hour course is a substantial body of work for officers to go through. An officer trained in DUI investigation has about 16 hours of training for a basic DUI investigation. So this is this is an investment. This is a belief in our profession that we need additional tools. We also are going to be reaching out to our patrol team, so the non-designated HLO officers, and getting them through the basic 8-hour HLO course. Their training also includes the crisis intervention and de-escalation. We don't staff our HLO officers one per shift, for instance. If 3 of them happen to end up on one shift, 3 of them happen to end up on one shift. That means there's 2 shifts that don't have any. So what I want to be able to do is have a basic level of understanding as far as resources goes and techniques go to our entire patrol team. So that's getting rolled out here in the coming months. Our basic process here is one of education and enforcement. Please look at the way that I've set this up. Education, then enforcement. The reason for this is many of the issues you see with HLO, with the homeless population, they're not crimes. They're 10 years ago, they may have been crimes. 40 years ago, they probably were crimes. Today, they're not. So we have to educate both our community, the transient population, as well as our officers, as to what we need to do with these situations. If somebody's not committing a crime, why are we there? Well, let's make sure they're okay. Let's make sure the person passed out in the park doesn't need medical help. Things like that. We contact the transients, assess needs, and offer resources. These are voluntary acceptance programs, meaning I have no way to compel a person I run across, absent a crime, to accept any help. And if you think about the 6 to 8 habitual transients that I discussed earlier, these people have been contacted probably on the monthly basis for years and offered assistance. Okay? Some of these people I know from my last city, and I know they were contacted in Cypress. I hear them on the radio in Seal Beach. So the outreach is there. You know, we're doing this. Once we get beyond the education, are we going to enforce the laws? Yes. We're going to do it regardless of housing status. if you're ripping off somebody's car, you're ripping off somebody's car. It doesn't matter if you live in the Highlands or if you live in the flood control channel, a crime is a crime. And then our team is directed and very well equipped to be able to educate the people we come in contact with, for instance, our residents. We're standing in line at Starbucks and getting ready for a mocha frappuccino. It's summer, I'm allowed to drink mocha frappuccinos. And then run a little bit. But be able to turn around and have a conversation with the person standing in line behind you when they ask about, well, you know, I see this guy sleeping on the bus bench. Okay, well, let's talk about that. And that education that's happened with my officers are now happening, they're be able to transmit that out to our community. Resources. Here's a couple of things that I know you're all familiar with the North Spa service planning area. And Be Well OC is a new resource that came on. I'm going to start with that one. Be Well OC is a public-private partnership for mental health and substance use issues. Basically what this is this is a group of hospitals, philanthropists, things like that, that have gotten together, cooperated with the county and other governmental organizations to establish a facility. It's actually a really nice building down by Anaheim Stadium. If you drive by, it's on the west side, and it's Be Well OC right there. And they are able to provide mental health services with the anticipation of being able to transition somebody from a emergency stabilization to a program for treatment. That's their goal. Same thing with a mental health issue, 5150. These people are able to take in people in crisis, okay, so we don't have to take them to the ER, which may be overrun with medical emergencies, and be able to provide services with the idea of transitioning them into a either a psychiatric treatment or some other program that's appropriate for them. Now, they're not a homeless shelter, but when we run across somebody who may have had a little too much to drink and is less than housed, they can help sober these people up. And when somebody's in a clearer mind, you may be able to convince them to accept a little more help. That's the goal, or that's how we utilize it with the HLO, with respect to the HLO process. The North Spa, I don't need to go into much because from our ride along, I know you guys discussed this quite a bit. We have been able to use it.
Maybe you can describe it, because not everybody was on the council at the time we voted on the
And I
spa.
wasn't on the ride along, so.
You weren't? I thought you were just quiet. No? Okay, well, come on out. Come on out. Thursday.
It's wonderful. It was very educational.
Bring walking shoes.
Now, walking shoes I have, it's the running.
No.
Okay.
No. I won't let anything chase you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm not running.
The North Spa is the county is divided up into several service planning areas. We participate in the North Spa. Basically, all the cities contribute a certain amount of money to this facility, or actually it's several facilities. The one closest to us is in Buena Park, and it's referred to as the Buena Park Navigation Center. There's also Bridges at Placentia, which is a similar facility. And there's temporary facilities, if you guys have heard about the Armory in Fullerton. That's a temporary, more weather shelter type of facility. What this is, they accept referrals only, primarily from law enforcement or mental health professionals, meaning like the county CAT team, centralized assessment team. They will, if somebody goes there, they are provided shelter, food, hygiene, wraparound services. The idea is that the intake counselors will determine what these people need to try to improve their lot in life or their immediate situation. So you can expect that they'll do everything from somebody doesn't have a driver's license because they don't know how to fill out the paperwork. They'll sit down and work through the forms with them. They'll work, hey, are you on disability insurance, SSI? Are you on general relief? They have county workers or the appropriate agency workers in there to try to help these people get the resources they need. So Also, it's part of the Catholic workers lawsuit from the Honorable Judge Carter, and it's something that we kind of have to participate in. If we don't participate in the SPA, there are certain laws we can't enforce, and there's some.
Yeah, and we can talk about that too. You and I talked about this during the ride along, which was excellent and very educational. Thanks again for doing that. We have passed a couple of years ago an anti-camping ordinance that is very common among cities, which basically says you can't be camping on the parkways and the public areas and the parks. And the fact that we contribute to the SPA at minimal cost to the residents, I think it's around $30,000 a year, allows us to enforce those camping rules. So we can enforce our laws in the city while at the same time providing a minimal investment to what is really a solution, right? Which is these shelters, the Navigation Center in Buena Park and in Placentia. We can't force anyone to go to these facilities, right? But
Correct.
It's an option. We can offer this to people who are in need.
Yes.
And so the two work hand in hand. And I think it's a very productive thing. You were telling me during our ride along, I think that it's a positive to have the option of the SPA.
100%.
In conjunction with the anti-camping ordinance.
There is no, just as a side note, there is no way that the Los Alamitos Police Department or the entire law enforcement community in California can write enough citations to affect the transient issue. It's not possible. We have to address the root causes. We can enforce the law. We can keep the peace. We can, all those things, make your kids and your grandkids feel safe at the softball games and the football games, Friday night lights, all that other stuff. However, to be able to address this issue, we need partnerships. We need the North Spa as a place to go, as opposed to me just writing somebody a ticket and say, you know what, you look like you're having a rough day. Maybe these people can help and keep them from coming back onto the street. So it's a very important tool for us. All right. I think that was only one slide I skipped ahead. Cool. As far as within the county here, we partner with other organizations, obviously within our own city. Our code enforcement, Javi over there, has been a wonderful person to work with. I'm going to talk to the chief about getting him some training on our dime, because he's so valuable to this whole process, as well as Public Works. And what we're looking at here, there are certain things within code enforcement that they can go out and inspect properties. They can work with business owners, property owners, to try to affect the environment that the homeless people may or may not be attracted to. Public Works a lot of times can be putting in small improvements to, again, make an area less appealing. For instance, one of the things I see very often is somebody charging their cell phone at an exposed outlet in, say, a park or at a city facility or something like that. Something as simple as locking that outlet, well, they're not there to charge, they can't charge their phone there anymore, so they're going to move along. We also partner with our neighboring cities, Cypress and Seal Beach. We have great relationships with them and our shared borders, as well as the flood control channel. It's very important that we maintain these cooperations. The HLOs, we work very well with some of these people. There's a lot of cross-pollination, and different cities are trying different techniques, and we're getting best practices from them. And then I can't forget our Station 18, Orange County Sheriff's partners. Remember that we have flood control channels running through our city. We have county lands within our city. The jurisdiction falls to Orange County sheriffs. And also, if you think about it then, the Orange County Sanitation District, for instance, that's outside of our purview. However, thanks to Captain Byerly, who got us hooked up at the right level with a certain captain who runs that program, I still owe him a burrito from Nick's, I think.
Burrito.
Yeah, oops. Yeah. You'd be surprised what you can get with a breakfast burrito.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's a common request. we have a partnership there where they will come in with county crews, with county resources to help us clean up things that may be in a border area between county property and city property, as well as anything that's purely county. There's a great deal of cooperation between these agencies. So those are just some of the shared resources that we have with the HLO program here at LaSalle PD. And thank you very much for your attention. It knows how I put any questions in the small print. Yeah. Any questions?
I got a few. I have
Go
a
for
few
it.
questions. And
Yes,
I saw
ma'am.
your tiny print. I still got.
You saw it. Darn it. I tried.
So I actually just wrote questions on the slide as they came up. So on the camp location slide, it's just for my own information, and maybe anybody else that's listening. I saw that it was cleared out and it looks beautiful, but where were they relocated to?
So for instance, in the Willow 605 campsite, that was entirely handled out of LA County and Caltrans. So I don't know where they would actually be relocated to. Typically what happens on these camp cleanouts though is there's a advisement period that goes on beforehand. Some of this is from Judge Carter. But what essentially happens is there will be a team that goes in many cases, I don't know specifically to this cleanout, and advise the people who are residing there that, okay, you're trespassing, we're kicking you out, you have X amount of days, hours, whatever it happens to be to pack up, and then we're coming back through. So it's not like the bulldozer starts at the top end of the flood control and just pushes everything to Seal Beach or whatever. So as far as then, there are protocols that go on with the confiscation or the safe storage of their materials. For instance, again, courtesy of several different court cases going on, the agency that cleans up the campsite is responsible for the safe storage of the materials. Now, we don't have to necessarily take soiled items, food, obviously infected types of bedding and things like that. However, things that are property, we take as safekeeping. Now, different agencies have different time frames. It may be 30 days, it may be 90 days, again, with an individual city, and that agency is responsible for the safe storage. And then the people can come and get their material whenever they need to. After a certain period of time, though, the storage requirement runs out and they're allowed to dispose it.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. Then for your team, how are frankly, I think that you are very well suited for the endeavor that you've taken on. So that is fantastic. Like your temperament and everything. I could just sit here and listen to you all day. But how is everyone else, how were you selected? Was it like a volunteer or is it, and that's just it?
This is all, we put out a request for interest and the officers answer up for it. They are not incentivized as far as any pay or additional benefits or anything like that. This is people who want to do this. What I tend to find is a very consistent quality of the officers that have come forth. They see the complete package is what it really comes down to. Just because somebody doesn't have a home, we shouldn't think less of them. Just because somebody is living on the street or has a mental health issue or a problem, again, they all understand a crime is a crime, but they have a lot of compassion. And again, we just put 2 more people on, bringing my numbers to 4. Keep in mind, you know the level of staffing we have. That's a substantial percentage of our force that want to do this. I don't have 6 slots on a piece of paper that I need a line next to. If everybody wanted to be an HLO, I would put everybody through training. I would find a way with the chief and the captain's help to get people.
Okay, so while you're making a way, you mentioned the splits. You said that if it just so happens that 3 people are scheduled on the same shift, then they all 3 go out.
Yes.
Is that an avoidable issue or is that just?
There would be a structural issue with scheduling. We schedule based on seniority with a few rules in there. And with HLO being a collateral duty, it would be hard to emphasize that to scatter somebody. Unlike, for instance, a rank issue, if we had a protocol within the department that said if we have more than one corporal, they can't be on the same shift, or something like that. But again, that's a position of supervision and leadership,
Okay.
things like that.
Okay.
So.
That makes sense. And then I think I just have two more.
Sure.
You were mentioning all the services that North Spa does. Do they help people to get their GEDs as well?
Specifically to a GED, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, though, because of the sheer number of agencies and departments and everything else that when I go over there, I see. I'm sure if somebody who is in there as a temporary shelter, and the spa is designed for about 180 days, is really what they look at a cap. And at that point, they're trying to move people out to other housing opportunities. I'm sure if somebody went in and said, hey, sir, I could get a great job, but I need a high school degree, or I can't get a good job without a high school diploma.
Yeah.
I'm sure those people, with the passion they have for this topic, would find a way.
Okay. Okay, and then my last question, you were saying you're putting locks on the outlets, which I completely understand. Is that something that's used to kind of incentivize people to go to one of the places that you are admonishing them to go, or encouraging them rather to move on to? Okay.
So the idea is it's not like a move out type of thing. It's, hey, you're taking advantage of free resources here, whether you're taking a shower at somebody's hose bib or charging off of free electricity. We really can't allow that. However, you can't charge at this what used to be an open outlet. You know what? I know a place. I know some people you can talk to.
Okay.
Type of thing. We don't try to be authoritative, heavy-handed type of that. Again, just shy of a crime.
Yeah.
Because what we've found I was an HLO officer at another agency. If you go in with that attitude, the wall comes up, and you're never going to get anywhere. I don't care what their status is. However, if you go in with a attitude of, looks like you could use some help.
Yeah.
I've got some resources. Right? Are you interested? You have a better chance of helping them.
Okay. That's great. Are we going to is that going to be listed on our website somewhere? I think that would be great bullet points to just be able to go in quickly for like us as a council and for our city staff, and even especially for our residents that would call in, because I think it really shifts the focus of, oh my God, they're sucking up my electricity, to, you know what, there's a need there. I have an answer to your need. I have this resource. I can give it to you, so then it's not, I don't want you to charge it. It's, I want you to be positioned so that it's your electricity that you're using, or it's your hose that you can keep your swim trunks on in your backyard with.
Bingo. Actually, we do have several ways to communicate directly to me and my team, and it is on our city/department website. There is a web page, a landing page for HLO or transient issues, homeless issues, and there's an email on there that actually goes straight to me that I monitor the mailbox, as well as there is a extension here at the police department, 425, that I get stuff forwarded to my work cell phone on a regular basis. So there are those contact opportunities, and we've put that out there. When back in fall, we had an article in the Rossmore Quarterly Monthly magazine, and we actually had several people call up and reach out and wanted to donate to the program. So we do try to reach out through these methods. Social media, our social media, our community liaison officer, who maintains our Twitter and Facebook accounts, will occasionally put up homeless information as well. So we try.
Well, that's awesome. Now, you mentioned donations. Do you guys have somewhere that can be directly donated to? Or y'all weird like the city and there's no way to give you money easily?
Well,
I just want to write a check, okay?
well,
Burritos.
yeah, burritos. Nick's 7 o'clock in the morning. Unfortunately, I think my chief would greatly disapprove if I asked people to write checks to me. So we don't have like a fund or an account necessarily set up for that. Some people have requested to be able to donate things in kind, for instance, and that's. I turn it over to the city attorney for the legalities of us accepting things. But that is an opportunity, as well as donations to some of those resources that I discussed. For instance, to the North County Spa, or to some of the community outreach organizations here within our city that provide meals or lunches or groceries type of thing. All of those things help us. Whether it comes from somebody with a badge and a patch, or it comes from somebody with a collar and a cross, or anywhere in between. If those resources are there and we know about them, I've got no problem saying, go down the street. You need what? Okay, these people down here have it, and point them there. We do the best we can, but to quote a politician or a politician's wife, it takes a village. It really does for this problem. I can't arrest my way out of it. I can't cite this, the city out of this or anything like that. We've got to attack the root problem.
Thank you for indulging me.
Certainly.
I'm done.
I just have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the majority of the communication that I get about the homeless from residents and some businesses, but mainly residents, is right here at the 605 in Catella. I know, last year, I either get calls from people at Royal Oak or parents over at Oak Middle School, seeing the encampments and seeing the homeless situation there. I know last year, was it last year or the year before? I think we lost a year somewhere in there. We had the situation here that ended tragically where shots were fired and a homeless man lost his life. I know it complicates over there on the riverbed because it's Long Beach, LA County, Caltrans, Highway Patrol. So what's that partnership like there, and how do I respond to residents to say, hey, there's an issue over there, without sounding like I'm passing the buck on to, well, it's an LA County problem?
Well, the way I would recommend approaching that is split it between a homeless issue and a criminal issue. If there are people out there being suspicious, creepy, whatever it happens to be, please have people call us. Okay, we're right here. We'll go out there and make a right turn behind a gate and drive the car down, and you see if there's a problem. If it's something more specific to a encampment, for instance, hey, there's 3 tents over there. Again, I wouldn't expect a resident necessarily to know who to call. Give them my email.
Okay.
Give them that HLO or either email or number. Let me be aware of it, and then I can reach out to Long Beach's East Station or Caltrans, or if it's way further south at the south end of Rossmore, maybe it's Seal Beach. You don't have to figure it out. Our residents shouldn't have to figure out. Call me. Maybe I can help.
So we can give them your email?
Of course.
Okay, because it's never really, I've never heard of really a crime, but a stereotype homeless are creepy.
Right.
Whether they're committing a crime or not. And
Exactly.
they just want them out. And that's tough to handle. I'd rather have, I don't want to try and give them the answers or kind of a solution for it, but if we can give them your resource, that would be great.
I counsel people like this all the time. If I don't know about a problem, I can't address the problem. Okay. I got 2 eyes. I got a couple of officers out there, but we have 11,500 residents here who are very focused on 200 yards in any direction of where they live, where they play softball, where they go to school. I want to use those eyes. Get that information to me. If I can't do anything, I can't do anything,
Right.
but I can try.
Okay.
I think the cleanup, Mayor Pro Tem, on the 605 at Willow is a great example of the relationship that we have with some of these other jurisdictions and stakeholders, because I can tell you, we've been on their heel and saying, please, we got to do something, and even reaching out to my peer next door, and they're kind of under the gun too, because it's like I'm not going to be able to do anything. I don't have that kind of a council say, or it's a political situation, but we'll try to get some people down there. And Long Beach actually had folks, some other folks down there just investigating, making sure there wasn't, drugs, weapons, and going through that, and making it obvious to them that if they are committing those crimes, that they're being, watched for that. And they'll, but minus them committing actual crimes, it's a little bit difficult to do because of the environment that we're, faced with nowadays. But I think because of that relationship, because we kept on talking, all of a sudden we had a crew out there starting to clean up, and quite frankly, a lot of them, you asked where they were heading to. It's like a balloon, right? If you squeeze one in, it pops out somewhere else. And what they found is about a mile up north, or almost 2 miles up north, is where some of them went on the west side of the riverbed. And then some of them were going down Catella, or Long Beach's side of that, and continued that way. And we had a few come into our city right after they did. We actually arrested 2 folks that came towards this way, and after detaining them, finding out they had drug paraphernalia, and all that kind of stuff. So, but we do have that kind of relationship, I believe, with those folks, and we do our part. I mean, these guys, Sergeant Lee and his crew, are just wonderful. And he didn't really talk about the trespass letter program, but that's a great tool that he, along with our city attorney and his office, came up with so that we can help our business community. For those folks that are found, just sleeping in the hallways in front of doors and all that kind of stuff, and shouldn't be there, and it allows us to take action. And as the mayor said, it's not just being part of North Spa and having these facilities. We have to, by law, offer these things up before we can take action. So we have to not only have them in place, but then offer them, and if they refuse, then we can actually do something about that. So it's a collective effort. It's a bigger problem, than most people think, besides saying move along, right? So, and we really can't do that anymore. So it's they're very tactful, very strategic on how they do things, and I think we're seeing it. Our community, I think, has done a really good job. People always ask, how do you prevent that stuff from happening? But I think what they do is they make contact consistently and asking them for resources till they eventually say, okay, I get it. I'm going to go somewhere else, and I won't be bothered by you guys. I don't need resources. I just need to just do whatever it is that they're doing. But
Good, because I know over here is especially difficult because you've got 5 jurisdictions, and depending on where you're standing,
Oh
on the
my gosh.
on-ramp, on the grassy
Yeah.
knoll, on the riverbed, on what side of the riverbed, it depends. And when that situation happened, it wasn't even our jurisdiction, but we were involved. So to hear that there's some kind of synergy there,
that's why you'll never see again a Caltrans trying to do a cleanup around here
Right.
without having CHP involved, because
that could have gone a lot
that could have
worse.
been really bad.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, actually, thank you, Chief. I thought I skipped a slide somewhere in there. I got a little too much caffeine in my thumb, and the trespass letter program, as well as site inspections for various businesses, were covered on that. My apologies.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sergeant Lee. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
sir.
All right, next we will move on to oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to not more than 5 minutes per speaker. Welcome.
Hello. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Los Alamitos City Council. My name is Calvin Alvarez, and I'm the Constituent Services Manager representing Orange County 2nd District, Katrina Foley. I'm honored to be here with all of you today, and I'd like to begin my comments by thanking the City of Los Alamitos for keeping us posted constantly on the latest news and events. I would especially like to recognize Executive Assistant to the City Manager, Chelsea Wilson, for sending our office some of the funding requests that the city had for capital projects and event sponsorship opportunities here in the city. I'm happy to report that we are working on many of the items that Chelsea sent over, and our office will continue to do whatever the city wants us to help out with. And I also wanted to give a
Wait,
thank
write
you.
that down.
Yeah, and I also wanted to give a thank you and a congrats to Sergeant Lee for a very informative presentation that he gave. If there's anything that our office can do to assist that as well, we'd be more than happy to. We can contact the different jurisdictions. We can provide more training through the sheriffs. If you guys want to do more than just 40 hours, we can do that quarterly or monthly, whichever you prefer. And now I'd like to give a brief update on some of the items that the supervisor is working on. So one of her big initiatives is putting together a veterans workforce development program, where if an employer seeks to hire a veteran, the county will help give grants to that employer of up to 100% of the
Would you
funds.
mind taking your mask off? Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Of course. So if there are any business members in the community that are interested in hiring a veteran, please feel free to reach out to our office. We'd love to connect them with the proper person and keep our veterans employed. Since the Joint Forces military training base is next door, I also wanted to share that our District 2 office formed a veterans working group, and the group's mission is to advise and assist in formulating immediate action plans for the supervisor regarding veterans issues, including but not limited to health, employment, legal diversity, family, and general welfare. So if there are any veterans that are interested in joining that, if you guys know anyone, feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to get them a part of that. Our office will soon be accepting applications for a District 2 Arts Grants program that will provide eligible art grants to art-related small businesses and nonprofits. And I'll be happy to forward that information to the City Manager Simmons once that becomes available. I'd also like to update the group on our office's COVID-19 efforts in partnership with the Orange County Health Agency. We have focused on vaccinating our community since we were sworn in on March 26th, and we're happy to report that at least 2 million residents throughout the county have received at least one dose of the vaccine, so kudos to everyone who's vaccinated. Our office was also excited to see that the vaccination pods at the Los Alamitos Community Center next door, as well as the Los Al Race Course that our office assisted in coordination with the Orange County Health Agency and the city, was a huge success. If you are interested in hosting any more or bringing the county health agency back for more vaccine pods, please let us know. We started doing different community ones, so if since school is going to start soon, if you guys want to do one at a local high school, we'd love to be a part of that. And now the supervisor and our team would like to invite you to some of our events that are coming up. Later this week on June 23rd at 10 a.m., we are hosting a 2nd District virtual job fair where employers and job seekers across Orange County are invited to join us. Special shout out to the Los Alamitos Greater Chamber of Commerce for sharing this fantastic opportunity to the members of the community here. On July 15th at 6 p.m., we're hosting a town hall to commemorate our first 100 days in office and give an update on everything our office has accomplished in such a short amount of time, and hopefully we can include those capital projects that were sent over. On August 12th at 6 p.m., we're planning a community workshop on the county's redistricting process, which is, a lot of people have a lot of questions about that. Happens every 10 years. So I would tune into that. We're going to have it in person at Orange Coast College down in Costa Mesa, but there will be a live streaming option in case you wanted to tune in. And lastly, please stay tuned for our restaurant music tour that will be going across Orange County, the 2nd District, visiting different restaurants and just giving them certificates and recognizing them. And hopefully more residents can go out and eat there. And thanks again for allowing me to speak and give you guys an update. If you have any questions or anything, I'd be happy to help answer some of them. And then if you want, you can email me directly at calvin.alvarez, that's ALVAREZ, @ocgov.com, or you can contact our office by calling 714-834-3220. If there are any questions. Nope. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll see you guys next month.
Thank you. Are there any other oral communications? Does not appear so. At this time, we're going to move to council announcements. Council members may also report on items not specifically described on the agenda that are of interest to the community, provided no action or discussion is taken except to provide staff direction to report back or to place the item on a future agenda. Councilmember Doby, we'll start with you today.
Okay. Whew, I've been busy. So my mosquito and vectors board committee, they met a bunch of times. I met with them at least 3 different times because I am on additional 2 subcommittees. I went to a ribbon cutting at Top My Workout, and it was so cute. They have a gummy bear as their main logo, and it's fascinating. They said it's because the gummy bear is like just 1 calorie, so you can pop them and keep working out. It's not like it's like a heavy weightlifting gym. So the gummy, I love it. I like what they did with the whole thing because you're in there, pushing heavy weight with a gummy bear on your shirt. And I also went to the ribbon cutting for Avira. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Because God forbid I say it wrong. But it's a beautiful facility. It's like, I know that they do dental work and they probably do other fascinating things. I fixated on the dental work because of course I have my mask on. And he was the first person to say that he could fix my crossbite and he didn't even see my teeth. And everyone else has said they'd have to break my jaw to do it. So I'm pretty excited to head over there. And I left him with, I'm sure, nightmares. Because I was like, you don't even know what it looks like. You said you could fix it. You don't know. I got teeth, growing teeth. I don't. And the most amazing thing that I got to do, oh my God, I went to the high school graduation. And I got to hand my niece her graduation certificate. Y'all, I was a hot mess. I was undone. When she saw it was me, she was like, oh, that's my auntie. So that was, I will run forever to go to those things, seeing the vitality and the promise in these babies' faces. I was just a wretch undone, looking like light-skinned Carmen Sandiego. It was outstanding. Highly recommend it. I went to my operations committee meeting, and then I went to my human relations committee meeting as well. Now, something that I would like to start doing, and y'all feel free to join me on this because I think it's an outstanding idea, is I'm going to start sharing where I have gone in the city to grab a bite or a nice drink so that other people will be encouraged to go. This is my way, an additional way of supporting our local businesses, which are amazing to me, and I'm just pushing so much good to them. I want to see us not just survive, but thrive now. So first up is Coconut Rabbit. They have the most amazing dumplings, and their Thai iced tea is so marvelous that I drink one and I take one. And then Pho 99 Plus, they have these chicken wings that are like soy sauce chicken wings, so you think that they wouldn't be that good, but yes. And then they have a Vietnamese coffee, which is also outstanding. Vietnamese coffee, if you don't really like strong coffee, stay away, but it's so good. And then Donut Boss, I love their workers there. Their workers there are just so sweet. They are the kindest people, and they always have great suggestions. And they actually remind me of what my coffee order is, because I don't go there all the time. And then for your nails, Cassidy's Nails. I got the best gel pedicure there. And I would tell you my person's name, but no. Send me an email and I might. But they are outstanding. They're right over there by where Hoff's Hut used to be. I don't know what we're going to replace them with, but that's going to be marvelous too. And that's all I've done since the last time I saw y'all.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember Nafolda.
I haven't been quite as busy. I attended 2 meetings. I was actually out of the state for 10 days. So I attended 2 meetings of the West Cities Communications Center. There was a regular meeting scheduled and also a special meeting for labor negotiations. I attended the graduation as well. We had a great time. I had a niece that also graduated and got to hand her diploma, and that was really special. And that's it.
Excellent. Councilmember Bates?
Sure. I had the privilege of attending a Library Advisory Board meeting, Revenue Tax Committee meeting of the League of California Cities, and probably the most fun was I got to be in Rossmore for an Eagle Scout graduation with 8 Eagle Scouts. What a enlightening and inspiring presentation and engagement that was for these young men. Really phenomenal. And then lastly, a league Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm a former president of the League of California Cities, and we select a new person every year for a Lifetime Achievement Award. So I'll look forward to that presentation at the League of Cities meeting in October. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink.
Things are definitely starting to get busy, I think, for all of us. First, I want to thank Councilmember Bates for stepping in on the Eagle Scout. My family decided to surprise me with a weekend away and didn't tell me until I told him, hey, Sunday, I've got this going on. So he graciously stepped in and represented us all well. Those Eagle Scouts also graduated from LaSalle High School the following week, which we had a number of them, which is always nice. I did get to attend the graduation with my other two colleagues. We looked very smart in our regalia, proved that we is educated. It was just really neat. I mean, these kids haven't been in traditional school for a year and a half. And just as many accolades were on them. We had kids that are going into the military. We have, the scholarships were amazing. It wasn't just athletics, it was drama, it was just all kinds of stuff. Academics, we've got a number of them going into the service academies. One of our football players is going to be playing for West Point. You would never know being there that they just went through their last year and a half of high school basically remotely. Without any of the benefits of being a senior and doing all the, and they tried their best on doing the things, but just being there, the energy that was there, that's like, if you can do this, you can pretty much do anything. So that was really neat. I want to thank the school district for always including us in that. I was able to give a diploma to a girl who was in the hospital when she was born. So that was really cool. I felt a little old since my kids have now been out of the high school for 9 years. But it was just a really neat community event. They did it at Santa Ana College, which gave us lots of space and everything. So it was just a neat time of celebrating. OCFA is a little quiet right now. We are approving our budget on Thursday, hopefully. It's a $461 million budget to provide fire and safety services throughout the county. We just, Wednesday night, I went to the first in-person firefighter academy graduation that we've had in a year and a half. We had 48 new firefighters added, which is always great because we can't keep up with all the retirements. So they'll be ready to go, and we have another academy starting in 2 weeks. And I think that's it.
Excellent, thank you. I attended the Sanitation District. We have our monthly administration committee meeting and our monthly board meetings. Got another one this Wednesday. I visited the Los Alamitos Vaccine Clinic at the community center, so thank you to city staff, particularly Robert Acosta, for working hard to get the vaccine clinic up. I was really impressed. It was really organized. A lot of people went through, more than I anticipated going through it, so that was excellent. And then, as Sergeant Lee mentioned, I went on a tour of the riverbeds with him, and he did a great job, as he did tonight, explaining the situation and educating all of us. He did the same with me during the ride-along, describing the services that we offer and really the good work that our police department does in both educating the residents and the transient population, but also offering services and enforcing laws when we have to enforce laws as well. So I think it's important that I asked for the presentation tonight just so that our residents can hear this and understand the nature of the issue. But it's also important that all of us as well continue to talk to our residents and our neighbors about this issue and assure them that we and our police department are doing everything we can to address the issue, help out when we can help out, and also, of course, enforce laws, and that they should be reporting issues when they see issues, and then leave it up to the professionals to really address any issues that need to be addressed. Moving forward, I'm going to the movie and music in the park at Orville Park this weekend. Is that all filled up, Emmeline? Or almost? All right, so hurry up and register if you haven't registered yet. And then the 4th of July at the base. Emmeline, did you want to say anything about the 4th of July at the base?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to invite the community. There is 1 ticket per vehicle required for reservation. You can find that on Eventbrite, which is accessible with the city's website at cityoflosalamitos.org. And go to recreation and then events, and you'll find 4th of July there. And we invite the community to come out and enjoy the 22-minute fireworks show. It is drive up. And it is actually a better format because it lets everybody exit quicker than in past years.
Awesome, thank you. Next, we'll move on to items from the city manager. City Manager Simmons.
Nothing from me, sir.
Okay. And next, we have warrants. Do we have any questions about warrants?
Just 2, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If we can turn to page 10. I noticed that we have a cooperative agreement, it seems, with Cypress, right about the middle of the page there, for public affairs consulting for $1,250. And I'm wondering if we can get a little bit of an explanation on what that's for.
Of course, sir. As part of our outreach efforts related to COVID-19 and the vaccine rollout, instead of going through this process alone, we partnered with the City of Seal Beach and Cypress in order to host a bi-monthly town hall meetings with the various mayors to push out information from different stakeholders in the community. We've had Supervisor Wynn from the State Assembly. We've had a state senator. We've had a supervisor as well. And our goal here is to try to use this as a platform to push out as much information as we can. We also have been doing a lot of outreach with regards to the information that we're putting on our website and such as well. So this is a collaborative effort between the 3 of us. It seemed to be paying some dividends with regards to the outreach, and it's something that we'll look to continue here in the short term as we hopefully are wrapping up the need for COVID information.
Thank you. On page 12, toward the bottom there, it says PlaceWorks, professional services, general services for $15,349. I wonder if you could give us a little background on that.
Of course. PlaceWorks is the contracting company that is currently working on our town center project. So that is the reason for the payment. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into a specific plan, particular studies in terms of traffic. Also, we look at density opportunities where we might be able to increase housing, where we might be looking to add some additional parking or some additional retail opportunities in the city. So that's the general nature of their work. If you'd like more specifics, I'd ask Ron to step in.
Oh, good.
Okay, with that, unless there's any other questions, can we get a motion on the warrants?
So, second.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Doby, seconded by Councilmember Bates. Roll call. Mayor Turco?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink?
Aye.
Councilmember Bates?
Aye.
Councilmember Doby?
Aye.
Councilmember Nafolda?
Aye.
Okay, item passes. Next, we'll move on to the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. What items, if any, would you all?
Mayor, just a couple questions on E,
Sure.
F, and G.
Okay, and any other questions on any other items? Okay, why don't we do the questions and then we could move the whole group if
Sure.
that work.
So on E, what's the relationship here with our current contractor, and how has this fit in with the procurement process?
If I'm understanding your question, sir, these are our current contractors. We are satisfied with their service to date. We have gone out to bid in order to, again, see what exactly the, if any savings could be achieved by looking at other bidders. And obviously, anytime you're talking about a system as far stretched as this, obviously the qualifications are going to be an important piece of making that decision. And such, we've opted to continue to go down this path. And again, if like some more specificity, I can ask our Development Services Director to step in.
So where I'm going with this is basically what you're saying is a 2-year contract and ends on June 21st, 2023. Is, in essence, that's what we're approving and that's what we were trying to approve?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So I see we got the attachment on number F, on the capital improvements program. And I guess my question is, will you, on this capital improvements program, continue to update it every year? Is that the plan, that we'll go through and update this every year?
Of course, sir. And as we go through the process of lining up our priorities, we also will be out looking for grant opportunities. And given the timeline of those grant opportunities, it may shift the priority of some of these projects based on where the funding might be available. And we do this annually to make sure that we're taking advantage every place that we can. But also, we want to make sure that if we have a situation that becomes so dire that we need to address it today, that we're agile enough to do so.
So if we needed to, we could move one of the projects from a prior year if grant funding becomes available to a more current year.
Exactly.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Then, I notice in here, just as a comment, I'm still under F. And I guess my only concern there is I'm wondering if we're spending enough time thinking about the impact of developments in Cypress on both Catella and on Cerritos. Because obviously those are huge impacts. I saw something in here where we've got to commit to keeping 3 lanes open in each direction. And I guess my question is, how are we factoring those into our thinking right now on the 7-year capital improvement program?
Of course, sir. And if I can take that in 2 different directions, if you'll allow me. First, in terms of the advanced planning that staff does with projects that are already known about, I'll give you an example with the Orange County Sanitation project that will be coming through Los Al Boulevard and on Catella and a little on Cerritos. We've done extensive work with the agency that is actually planning the project, talking about when exactly the work will occur, making sure that in residential areas that we're not going to be doing projects at night, whereas in business areas, we can do those projects at night in order to help speed along the project and try to lessen the impact on our residents. With regards to projects that are happening in neighboring jurisdictions that have impact on our infrastructure, that is a huge issue of concern, especially for us, given the fact that everything that's built in Cypress is going to impact Catella, which obviously is a street that we run. I've already had conversations with their city manager about opening up a dialogue about trying to put ourselves in a cooperative pattern of trying to figure out a way to address this when these projects are first initiated, as opposed to after the fact and having to go through the EIR challenge program or potential lawsuits. And so while they're open to that, obviously devil's in the details when it comes to negotiating out those different types of agreements, but it is something that we are currently working on.
Thank you. My last question, unless anybody has other questions, is on G. And I'm just wondering about the time frame there on G, because you've got $108,000 for a period of 4 years. But if I'm looking at it correctly, that's not necessarily consistent when you have the contract ending. Am I missing something there?
Well, I believe that we have so the total dollar amount is meant to cover the entire contract. Now, that being said, I believe that this is one that we are going to be getting into a lot of conversation with our neighboring jurisdictions with over the next couple of years. And so the reason for a 4-year contract is to at least allow us to plan out where exactly these expenses might be, but also knowing that this is going to be an issue that we're going to take up with these other jurisdictions, see where exactly they might be able to be involved.
I think maybe, and I'm catching it here as well on the primary agenda, is that it says a 4-year period ending June 30th, 2022. It probably should.
Right,
okay.
that, exactly, that's what I was.
I'm sorry, sir, I misunderstood the question. Yes, that is a typo.
Okay. And the proper year should be 2025.
You're correct, sir.
Got it, thank you.
Sure, and I have a question about that one. So these crossing guards, the city bears the full brunt of this expense. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the city also bears the full brunt of the expense of the school resource officer.
That is correct.
Okay. I know you and I have talked about this before, but my suggestion would be that we start a dialogue. Maybe you and I can meet with them, with Rossmore School District and Seal Beach. There was a time when all were contributing. The truth is, you know, we're paying for the school resource officer. It's one of our officers, and they do a great job. But this benefits residents of Seal Beach, this benefits residents of Rossmore, and it benefits the school district. And the only ones paying for this is our residents. And so I think it's really important that we ensure that, and we do it in a friendly way, but we ensure that these other jurisdictions are contributing as well, because it's just not right that our residents pay it all.
And after your and I conversation, sir, I did reach out to my counterparts in each one of those organizations, and each one of them acknowledged that, yes, LaSalle is paying for these safety operations, and they were very thankful for it. They all are open to a dialogue about it.
Okay.
If I might, Mr. Mayor,
Sure.
add Cypress to that too, because we provide guard service for, what would that be, the corner of Cypress at Cerritos and Bloomfield. That whole section is Cypress. Those kids go to the middle school, and that intersection is being guarded by our staff.
Will do, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. With that, I think if we can get a motion on the consent item calendars, we can move this along.
Yeah, I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the consent calendar, all the items pass. Next, number 11A of the public hearings, adoption of the fiscal year 2021 to 2022 annual operating and capital improvement program budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I turn it over to Craig for an abbreviated version of the budget presentation, I did want to mention that what's being proposed here is, I think, a very aggressive but needed approach to improving the city's infrastructure, shoring up the city's operations, and also a commitment to continuing to elevate, I think, the customer service experience for our residents here in LaSalle. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig to take us through it.
Good evening, Mayor Chirko, Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink, council members, city staff, and members of the public. I am pleased to present the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. Since March, the Budget Standing Committee has met to review, discuss, and provide recommendations on the proposed budget. The council held a special meeting on May 17th to discuss the Budget Standing Committee recommendations, provide further direction and comments. These items were input and were discussed with the Budget Standing Committee on June 7th. Staff also met with the city's standing commissions to gather additional community input regarding objectives, goals for the city. Associated recommendations and considerations have been incorporated in the final proposed budget. This resulted in only slight modifications to the preliminary budget expenditures that were presented to the council on May 17th. This budget represents 2 fiscal years, adoption of fiscal year 21-22 and as well as projections forecasts for fiscal year 22-23. This tool provides valuable planning for the staff to anticipate future projects and operations. It will also assist the city in focusing on short and long-term goals, along with the strategic aspects of projects and operations planning to ensure that they also align with the fiscal sustainability plan. It also allows for more community engagement by soliciting further input from council members, city commissions, key stakeholders, and the potential impact on future budgets. This assistant will also assist in the development of further financial planning tools and long-term forecast.
Before Craig goes to the next slide, I did want to mention that the meetings that we had with the city's commission were incredibly helpful. I think that they were able to offer some clarities to some of the suggestions that have been heard throughout the years in different areas, but the fact that they're living this type of issue every single day allowed us to actually build some of that into our long-range planning. So that is a practice that we hope to continue as we go through budgets in the future. Sorry, Craig.
That's okay. So current market conditions in the economy. So as we know, the economy is showing the fastest recovery in history, with over 30% real GDP growth in the final quarters of 2020. The vaccine rollout has continued. The California unemployment rate will also continue to fall and reflect slow, gradual improvement as the year progresses. The state's housing market has been by far the brightest spot of the 2020 economy. The expectation is that further housing permits will rebound further in calendar year 2021 as the economy continues its path to full recovery. As we said, the economy is showing signs of improvement and revenues reflect overall strong market activity. While some categories are showing growth, others will be slower in returning to past productivity levels. Of these, construction and building supplies have been significant upticks in activity. Some business sectors, such as business travel, of course, may take up to as much as 3 years to recover to pre-COVID levels. Contributing factors to the improving economy, obviously, the widespread distribution of the vaccine. Case and positivity rates have remained low. Full reopening was announced on June 15th, and that continues. And we're applying the lessons learned over the past year as we go forward. For the revenue projections, property taxes, sales use taxes, license, and permits all lead with positive growth. Growth is projected for secured property tax, whereas transfer and supplemental taxes remain flat. Sales and use taxes reflect continued positive growth. This is mainly attributable to building construction growth in the county pools. License and permits are forecast to improve as business activity continues to increase as well. Projections show a 2 to 3% increase year over year. There's also optimism is tempered by the market reality that this may take up to 2 to 3 years to return to full pre-COVID levels. Some revenue categories will remain down and will be slower to recover. Obviously, TOT, business travel will be slow, and also includes the slow growth for the new hotel. Charges for services are directly dependent upon rec programs and classes coming back online. And local sales tax measure Y will reflect all 4 quarters for fiscal 21-22.
And Craig, I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in again. Something that I wanted to mention was mentioned to me, and then actually the deputy city manager and I had a long conversation about this today. We've been watching, obviously, and noting some of the activity at the hotel, and it seems as though they are doing quite an impressive business,
Yes.
especially given the downturn in the economy and the restrictions on business travel and such, and we're even using them for certain things. So while I'm optimistic about where exactly the TOT numbers might be, and it might be something that we update when we do a budget
Mid-year.
review,
Mid-year.
this is a conservative estimate as to where exactly our TOT will land.
Thank you.
Sorry, Craig.
That's okay. So looking at the revenue projections for 21-22, overall, the total revenues and transfers in represent about $18.9 million. The largest portions of that are obviously the property, sales and use tax, and Measure Y local sales tax are the biggest contributors. Main takeaways for revenue projections. Main revenue increase comes from obviously from the infusion of Measure Y funds with over $4 million projected. Other noted increases further improve the city's overall revenue picture related to long-term model, and growth in other revenue categories is projected as the overall economy improves and moves forward. On October 19, 2020, and again on January 19, 2021, the City Council unanimously approved the Fiscal Sustainability Pledge, or also known as FSP. The pledge highlighted specific operations and programs that the City Council intended to target in the event of the passage of Measure Y. And these areas included providing for public safety, maintaining senior and youth programs, repairing streets, sidewalks, roadways, and aging infrastructure, and stimulating the local economic growth by helping retain and attract local businesses and jobs. Given the Council's direction, the FSP served as the starting point for the development of this year's budget. The proposed budget looks to address some of these issues. The one is the city's need to develop an agile organization that has the capacity to effectively address service needs of our residents while allowing for flexibility to address new challenges moving forward. Formalizing past restructuring efforts that have proved successful, identifying and addressing organizational deficiency that would hinder achieving the goals set forth in the FSP, and development of an aggressive capital improvement program aimed at protecting Los Alamitos residents' quality of life. I think next up is the department overviews from each of the
Can we
departments.
ask a few questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Craig, if you'll turn to 8 of 12, perhaps you and or Ron can just explain what's going on there. I kind of understand it, but maybe for the public, we can clarify the four code enforcement officers and what the new arrangement is trying to accomplish.
You're on page 8 of 12 of the item?
Yeah, Ron.
So the four code enforcement, the code enforcement officers, they're all part-time.
Right.
And as we enter and we learn through our COVID that Code Enforcement Bureau is an all-encompassing position where they do neighborhood preservation. As you saw today in the HLO presentation, they assist with the homeless liaison. They do businesses, and they were also transitioning because we've always had a gap in monitoring our facilities during the weekend, such as our parks and our picnic shelters. So now they're going to go out there and monitor our parks, making sure that our, many of the homes, the patrons that visit the parks are in compliance with our code. We've had issues at our parks, such as picnic shelter rentals and renters playing amplified music, dogs off leash, etc. So that's the reason why we have the four part-time, the assortment of the part-time code enforcement officers.
Ron, I guess what concerns me is that, and I hear what you're saying, and I basically agree with that.
Okay.
But yet I see two of those code enforcement officers, one going to a clerical assistant and the other one to a special projects coordinator. Now, are these two still going to be in the field and doing code enforcement work, or are these office people that we're not going to see in the field? That was kind of where I was going with this new arrangement here.
I apologize, I didn't understand your question, but we currently have in the left-hand column, we have the current position.
Right.
In the current position, we have 2 code enforcement officers. Okay, in the next column is proposed. So we're going to keep the 2 proposed, and then we're going to add on the code enforcement, another personnel, and then we're reclassifying another position into what we call a senior code position.
Got it. And then that means the other 2 part-time people are additional, the clerical assistant and the special project coordinator.
Yeah, they're additional. They're separate from the Code Enforcement Bureau.
Okay.
Correct.
And we think that's going to get us better follow-up and better coordination of code enforcement.
Absolutely.
Okay. I have one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
Ron, this is another one that I think applies to you. But I'm seeing this project on here. I think I mentioned this to the city manager that kind of bothers me. That guardrail at Cerritos is still on here we haven't gotten that finished yet?
That's correct, sir. We have a budget, and we went out to bid, and the bids that we received were over the budget. So we're in the process of rejecting that bid. And in the meantime, we're going to go out there and come up with an alternative solution to repair that. So I just want to reiterate that the bridge is secure, but it's not secure to the specification of Caltrans. So it's not like it's like if someone walks up there and pushes it over, it's going to fall over. But we are in the process of repairing that.
Okay, maybe I should rephrase my question a little bit here without trying to be argumentative. Okay, my point being is obviously it's a safety hazard, and man, we don't want to get ourselves in a bind on this thing. So my question is, were the bids reasonable? Did we get more than one bid? And if the bid is reasonable, and maybe we just underestimated it, maybe we could get more money put into that project now so we could get the contract awarded and get that work done before somebody goes through that again and we really obtain tremendous liability for the city, since we're aware that there's a problem there and we haven't solved it.
In my opinion, the bid was not reasonable. I believe we could do it at the projected cost. That's why we're going to recommend to reject that bid.
Hopefully, we can put it on a very fast track.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The first department is the administration department. Obviously, this is a new term to capture both the city manager's department and the city clerk's office. And you can see from this that largely this is the administration hub of the city. Obviously, the lion's share of the work is done by the people in the field, but this is the area where we plan for what exactly we're going to do in the next year. We do the budget allocations, much like the council will be making decisions tonight, and then really directing those departments as to how exactly that work is going to be accomplished. Our major focus here for this year is going to be continuing to build that organizational structure in order to make sure that it is able to handle the needs of the city, that we're able to deploy the new projects and programs that the department heads, the council, and our various stakeholders have come up with. And then also through the city clerk's office, a recommitment to transparency and really doing a significant amount of outreach. Next slide, please. And just in terms of some of the goals that we have, again, mentioned the organizational structure. This past fiscal year was really about putting our financial house in order, making sure that we have the ability to address some of the issues that have come to note here in the community. And this year is really about having the organization to go out and tackle those in a meaningful way. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're continuing to improve the services that we provide in line with the FSP. And then the next bullet point there is continuing to focus on the fiscal stewardship of the city. This is something that, now that Measure Y has passed, is something that we're committed to, ensuring that we take every opportunity to look for grant funding to pay for things so that the residents don't have to, and then also looking for ways that we can deploy our funds as a multiplier and be able to achieve a better work product at the end of the day. Also, looking at different opportunities where we can actually, through some strategic planning, being able to look at the growth and economic development throughout the city. Obviously, those are things that we need to do, but they have to be done in a wise and judicious way. And then lastly, looking for different areas where we can improve upon the partnerships that we have, again, in the area of traffic control, in the area of homeless liaison. Those are all areas where being the fact that we are a smaller city, our regional approach can really be effective here as opposed to each city going it alone. Then within the city clerk's office, obviously that increased transparency is a huge piece for us. A lot of the technology that we'll bring online here in the next year, I think will help with that and provide opportunities for the public to be able to really access what exactly the city is doing and how it is doing it. I think that's important to tell the story of how we're using the funds that they have provided to us. And then also providing additional services through paper shredding and such, which the city clerk spearheaded last year and was incredibly popular with our residents. Thank you.
So next up is the Finance Department. In addition to the traditional areas of accounts payable, payroll, billing, purchasing goods, Finance also manages the investment portfolio over $12 million. It manages the city's debt of $3 million. Manages 22 separate funds under the general funds and proprietary funds. Continues to receive the Certificate of Achievement for the CAFR, which has also now been renamed to the annual report. And then, most importantly, maintaining the 5-year forecast and strategy to secure balanced budget over the longer term. Some of the goals for the Finance Department are processing enhancements such as electronic payroll, improving internal manual processes, creating more efficiencies, improving customer service levels, enhanced budgeting tools to streamline the budgeting process, such as real-time reporting, additional levels of transparency, and cost containment by ongoing review of cost allocations and issuing RFPs for such things as banking and other services.
All right, good evening. Development Services. So it's funny, the July 5th is actually my anniversary date for my transfer from the Recreation Community Services Department over to Development Services. And so this slide here highlights the history of what was done in 2020. I'm not going to go over every single one, but Development Services incorporates building and safety, code enforcement, CDBG grants, includes some of the special funding like the Measure M and the SB1 gas tax funding that we oversee, the economic development portion, the engineering services, planning, public works as well. And so one of the things that I assessed, and you probably hear it many times from city manager and other departments, is the need to increase customer service to our residents and our businesses, and that is the goal of the Development Services Department, starting with building and safety. It's to increase the customer experience, what I like to call it. So we're going to transition to online plan checks where you could do an online appointment, online payment, increased communication. One of the things that I love is, if you're a DirecTV type of, using that example, is when we're going out there, you make an appointment, you get an email saying that your appointment's coming up, and this is approximate time that the inspector's coming in, and then they come in to check in, and then of course they follow through with an email saying thank you for being part of the city and whatever message that we want to state. So that is the software that we're investing in to, again, increase the customer experience for building and safety. We next go to code enforcement. Again, they have a lot of things that they do. As you can see, their increase of resident experience is the big one. And by doing that, again, is we're transitioning to an online software that you can actually do or file a code concern online. Right now, we have it's a suitable way, but it's basically you pick up the phone and you call in. Now we want to, everything right now is through apps. So we're having an app actually, so you can do that online. Of course, we're going through organic waste. As you are aware, January 1, 2022, the state is mandating us into organic waste, so code enforcement is going to assist in the education. We are offered a 1-year trial period to educate our residents. We already started that education with our businesses, but again, we're going to go full-blown starting hopefully in the fall as we prepare through that mandate that starts in January 1, 2022. I mentioned earlier that we're transitioning them to do park patrol. They assist with homeless encampment. They monitor illegal business activity, and they also assist with the citywide beautification of the city. They also do other things such as NPDS, which is a stormwater drains. They monitor that as well. And so they have a big job. And so again, it's to increase the customer experience.
Hey, Ron, real quick question for you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
As far as the app you were talking about with the code enforcement, will there also be a place where residents can go in and report like a broken sidewalk or things like that to kind of get the service request in there? Because I know if somebody sees a broken sidewalk, they're probably not going to call, but if they have an app that they could go in and just report it, I think the success would be a lot better.
Absolutely. You are, what's that phrase? You're the cart before the horse or whatever? Yes, we're not in the public works side, but you are correct.
Okay, good.
The app does also include public works, and we call those work orders. So yes, you can do a work order
Awesome,
request.
thanks.
Okay. We got economic development. As you can see right there, we have a plan outlined for economic development. Of course, we start with outreach. We're going to bring this back with council for further discussion, but we have some economic development plans in place that the staff is working on right now, such as Los Al Bucks, a parklet, vendor cart program, and of course, Sidewalk Saturday. So we have a huge economic development push that we're going to pass out. Again, we're going to bring back to council for further discussion at a future council meeting. We go into engineering services. So I break down engineering services into two types of services here. So we have capital improvement projects, and then we also have citywide projects to, of course, beautify and improve infrastructure. So, of course, we have a citywide street paving project that's going in place that we presented at previous council meetings, so that every district will get some sort of street enhancement in the city. We have a street crosswalk striping plan that's going to actually start fairly soon to, again, increase the safety of our kids or pedestrians or our bike or traveling along our street. And then, of course, we're going to do a citywide overhead arterial signage. That project was slated for a 4-year project. We started one already on Catella, but we're going to hopefully do the whole thing in one bang and complete all our arterials with our new signage. The other ones right here is, again, I'm not going to go over every single one. Again, it's to increase infrastructure. There's some right here, like the Lower Park Tennis Court project. Those tennis courts haven't been resurfaced for many years. In reality, you should resurface the tennis court every 2 years. I think we're going on close to 8 years on resurfacing. So we are going to go into that project. And of course, there's other projects there, again, to assist, the community and to, again, improve our infrastructure here in the city. We next go into planning. We mentioned before town center mixed use, that's place work. We hired place work to assist us with our town center mixed use plan. We're currently in our housing update plan that we hired another consultant to assist us in. We just finished the active transportation plan, and we're going to try to implement that. And as you can see, we have other plans in place.
Ron, yeah, if I can just stop you real quick. Where you're talking about Laurel Park tennis court projects, I know you've just, Emmeline has switched over the pickleball program there and moved the date back. I would just say that from what I'm seeing in a lot of different parks that have pickleball, that's becoming more and more popular. I just hope we'll evaluate it when we're doing that to see whether or not one of those courts might be converted to two pickleball permanent courts rather than having to haul in all the equipment and haul it out, depending on how many show up for pickleball. So I hope you'll consider that when you're looking at it.
Of course, sir.
Thank you.
We will. Okay, and then of course we got public works here. Again, increase the customer experience. So we have some projects in there, starting with our median project. That's going to be in 3 phases. We're hopefully going to start that in July. We have curb painting. Part of that is our discussion later tonight. Park beautification, Tree USA. But part of that too is also the software that I mentioned earlier, the app that a resident can go in there to request concrete repair, potholes in front of my house, tree trimming, etc. So everything is real quick and easy through the app, or of course the traditional website or phone number. Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question on the app monitoring. Who will monitor the messages that come in, and is there like a standard turnaround? For example, I have a Yelp for my business, and it tells me when I have been faulty on my follow-up times. So is there like a...
Absolutely. Again, with the customer experience, it's not, I take the Disneyland model where it's not just, it's infrastructure, it's providing services, but it's also follow through. So we actually are already implemented where we return phone calls within a 24-hour period as best as we can. You know, we try to answer emails within a 48-hour period or 24-hour period as best we can. You know, and I'm very confident to say that we're very good at it. Again, certain things slip through the cracks. You know, we're a very small department in development services, but I've tried to mandate that as much as possible.
So is there an auto response? Like I know on several of my emails, I can set up an
Correct.
automatic response. Does
Correct.
the app that you're considering
Correct.
come with something that?
Correct. There's a response. We have people in place to monitor that. So yeah, we're all going down that road. Correct.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
That is it. Thank you.
If I might, I would just caution that we have a few younger residents in our community that still appreciate that personal touch. So I would hate to see us get carried away to the point where everything has to be done online and you can't get a body and you can't get an email returned. So I think we have to be sensitive to that, especially as our population continues to age. So anyhow, and we're learning the
Face-to-face
computers.
interaction is always the best. Like I lead by example to the team here. I will a lot of times meet a resident face to face and not talk over the phone or through the email. I tell the team here, we're 2 square miles. We could get somewhere fairly
Pretty
quick if we need to talk to a resident. So
Yeah.
absolutely, sir. Again, it's that whole customer experience. I'm going to steal a line from Captain Wayne, who's sitting down there. He talks about the Nordstrom experience, and we have a piano in the lobby. That's how it is. We try to please everyone on every level, whether it's phone. We're going to have some phone protocols in place, emails, apps, face-to-face interaction, etc. So we're going through the whole gamut. Again, with the direction that provided by the city manager, we're going down that road.
Thanks.
That's so great. Y'all so small but mighty. I love it. I love y'all. Y'all are so amazing. You would think you got a nation to help you, and you don't. That's outstanding. Have your flowers, Ron. Take your flowers.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. Recreation and Community Services has had a very eventful past year. I am going to quickly advance through the following slides since I did the presentation last month about the overview of everything we've accomplished, and go straight to the goals slide if we can. Okay. And here we'd like to highlight our goals for the next 2 years. It is color-coded. The numbers from 1 through 8 are not in any particular order. It's just the way that I laid it out. So we're hitting seniors, teens, health and wellness, resources, cultural arts, events, community programs, and classes. In the orange, you'll see for fiscal year 2021 and 2022, these are our goals. Our Teen Expo, if you can recall, this was actually one of the events we had to cancel prior to COVID, but we were well into the planning phases with the other nonprofits, Casa Youth Shelter, the Youth Center, Grateful Hearts, Summer Harvest. We were all well into the planning, so we've got a really great plan coming up for next April. We've also got our walking club, family fit club, and increase in wellness classes. I'm super excited we're working on a program to be offered at Little Cottonwood Park and Orville Lewis Park, Orville R. Lewis Park, the mayor's park, to alternate, to have the whole family come out. And we'll have our rec leaders that do a great job with our youth sports classes, take the kids to one side, and then another recreation leader take the adults on the other side and focus on health and wellness and balance for the whole family. And we would like to develop a city foundation to help support all of the departments of the city. That's one of our goals. We're also a resource for the community. This is also in line with our school events and the resources we provide to the community in terms of providing special events and other different resources. We'd like to add more cultural aspects, especially to our upcoming street fair and our Memorial Care Miller Women's and Children's Hospital. Long Beach Week of Los Al presented by Southland Credit Union. where we've got Bikes and Bites, the Street Fair, Family Day, and Race La Salle coming up September. The whole week is from September 10th through the 18th. Please put that on your calendars. It's basically 4 or 5 major events in 1 week. I do have to give some of that credit to Councilmember Hasselbrink for that idea. So it kicks off with Serve La Salle and has a variety of events that leads up to the race and the street fair. We've already planned 2 very successful school events at Lee Elementary and Weaver, and they've already, other schools have already contacted us for the next year, and I also credit that exposure to a lot of our increased class participation and camps participation. Just so you know, for this week and next week, our camp is completely sold out. At 90 to 100 kids. And then, that's revenue-based. And then non-revenue, we have our senior balance and fitness class with about 90 participants. So people are coming out of the woodworks. They're done being inside, and they want to get out into the community and be together. So this is really great news for us.
Hey, Emmeline, quick question back on that slide. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm the slippery slope going downhill on the seniors. And I did notice that they were the only category where we weren't doing something in 21, 22.
In the senior, you can stay on this slide, Craig. The senior categories, we are working very diligently. We just need to get our staffing in place in order to support the extended programming. And then we are working with a current partner to hopefully present a free senior transportation for the community to go to doctor's appointments and shopping trips and to the community center. But as you know, that working with partners, it does take a while to develop, but it would be an amazing resource for our seniors. As Councilmember Bates noted, that there are an increasing population that we will need to serve for transportation purposes.
So this should be in place before I need it.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, that's what I needed. Thanks.
I have a question on the street fair graphic. Do y'all plan on putting that on a shirt? Because I sure would wear it.
We have talked about shirts, and thank you. I helped design that myself.
It's outstanding. Okay.
And
I'd pay for the shirt.
We will sell the shirt.
Watch out now. Let's go.
Councilmember B.
I said we're definitely doing that.
Come on.
Did you have a question?
I'd just like to thank Emmeline for the reach out and the effort you're using to work with the youth center and with the school district when they have programs, because obviously what we're looking for is to do our best to coordinate all the programs that are available to the residents of our community and make sure they fit together as best possible, and that those that are providing the service have the best expertise and staffing to do so. So thank you for working in that direction. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Bates. We actually had a Serve La Salle committee meeting today, and we're sharing roundtable with all the other executive directors. And Lena did mention that she is completely full and booming in all of their programs as well, and they just keep referring everybody to us. So it's a great partnership. We have our school backpacks and school supplies donation drive actually coming up tomorrow for the community if they'd like to support all of these nonprofits that will help distribute them to families in need. That's my little plug for the night.
Post the link for donations for cash, please, and thank you.
We will always take checks payable to the City of Los Alamitos and direct them where you would like.
Venmo link.
And the link.
Venmo link.
Venmo link. That's Craig is working on that for me. I have already requested this. He knows.
He does not look pleased.
No, it's in the works.
Okay, and then I'm just going to wrap this up real quick. So we want to continue with Film and Food Fest, Halloween decorating contest. We're trying to increase our corporate connection with the nonprofits so that they can be supported with the business community and the chamber. We're also working with our partnership with Seal Beach and Rossmore and increasing staff taught enrichment classes. So that is all in fiscal year 21-22. And then 22-23, senior transportation, expanded senior activities, welcoming back senior trips, hoping to add youth and government, teen classes, art and public spaces, working with economic development, adding adaptive recreation, hopefully summer aquatics, if we can work that out with the new high school pool, and mobile rec classes and birthday party packages. And that wraps up all of our goals for the next 2 years.
Awesome.
You're on, Chief Nunez.
All right. I think he already skipped to my goals or something. They all know I'm going to talk too long, so.
Yeah, let's
But I'll make it quick.
You also have the most slides, I think.
No, I really don't. I did in the beginning, but
The sergeant was here talking for.
yeah, okay. Sergeant Lee took the balance of my time, so I will just say this: that earlier in the consent calendar, the wisdom of the council to go ahead and approve the mayor to engage in that professional service agreement for our professional recruiter for the position of chief. It was outstanding, and it allows, and this first slide actually talks a little bit about the role of the chief in the administration, and really when you think about it, having to work on policies that protect us from liability, best practices, the training that's required for our officers. The state is requiring more and more transparency all the time. That's one of the things that the chief has to focus on. The morale department is extremely important because that translates to the level of service, really, and the attitude of that level of service that's delivered. But and then the way we do that, it's through accountability and discipline, making sure that people understand what the mission is here, and obviously being a steward of the city's coffers and making sure that the chief is responsible for that budget. So we'll go to the next slide. The chief does this through two of his captains. One is the services captain, who's really in charge of the criminal investigations that would come by after the patrol does their fine work. And then they are also responsible for administrative investigations and records and property evidence are probably the big issues that our captain deals with, as well as recruitment, communications, contracts, and any of the contracts really that deal with the police department. We talked about one of those big contracts being the crossing guard contract, and I agree with the council on this, and the mayor brought this up too, was that, with our police, with our SRO, our school resource officer, that is a position where it's our personnel. We control it. We'll use that person as the department and the city sees fit. But the contract itself for crossing guard is simply that. It's an outsourced situation where I believe that even the school district themselves can assist us, and besides the other stakeholders in trying to bear the burden and the cost of that contract. But that's what the support services captain does, and he does really the business of running the business of a police department on operational sense. And then our operations captain is what most people are familiar with, our operations side, which is patrol and field services, everybody pretty much that's in uniform, as well as our regional SWAT team, and we heard about our homeless liaison officer program. One of the things that's great about this city and the morale about the department is that even through our hardest times in terms of financially that we had faced over the years, last 5 years, they were still trying to be effective, and we made this an ancillary assignment, and you think about how good these guys are. This is not an MOU issue for them. They said, hey, let's get this assignment. We don't, we understand there's no pay involved, but we're committed to helping with this very significant problem that a lot of cities, throughout the state and throughout our country are facing. So, kudos to the guys and the gals for helping out for the homeless liaison officer team. They also work with our volunteer programs, patrol operations captain RACES and CERT, and so and emergency preparedness. And as you're well aware, with the pandemic hitting, I mean, we couldn't have been better situated with the current emergency services coordinator than we were. We were very fortunate to have had Robert Acosta come on when he did. Obviously, alumni of the Orange County Fire Authority, and at the rank of division chief, he really gets it, and is just outstanding for us. So I'll move on from that. And then I think the final slide here is going to be on challenges and goals, and you can look at that slide. But I'm going to tell you that most of all of our challenges relate directly to back to personnel shortages. And because of that, we're seeing increased overtime budgets. The reduction of special assignments that we've had in our city, such as the school resource officer, motor officer, require participation with our regional SWAT team. The reason why we have a regional SWAT team is to help save money for the city and be more effective, and we don't have the personnel to even put on that team, so we're really taking a free pass for the other cities that are involved in that, and they've been very kind and understanding, so we're looking at that. And bike patrol team to go out there and try to be a little bit more stealth-like and get out there and actually stealth when they need to be stealth, but then community outreach when they need to be community outreach, because they're not hidden behind a car and all you see is their head. They're actually out there. And you were just talking about that, Councilmember Bates, when you said, I hope it's not all high tech. It's not. It's, we're going to have a low touch kind of a high touch with a low tech, delivery system, a bicycle, right? Yeah. And so looking at doing that and obviously restarting our Explore Post program. And then, all of these assignments really, what do they mean? They mean that they impact, recruitment, which is important to us as a city, retention of good quality employees that we need to have that, retention, and the overall department morale that we see when people are motivated and they love what they do for a living, and these guys really do. They benefit from the experiential learning, and you really produce a better well-rounded police officer, which means it translates to better service delivery, bottom line, for our folks. So I think the council has already expressed within this budget that they are desirous of meeting these goals, that in trying to get us back to our numbers. The biggest goal for a police chief, I believe, and I know I've talked about this to my captains and especially our services captain out there, Captain Byerly, we were talking about response times, calls for service for priority one, because that's where our folks feel it the most, right? Our citizens. Mm-hmm. And when they call, and we're up about a minute and a half before we were a few years ago, that is a long time. And one time somebody asked me, well, what does a minute and a half cost? And I said, well, I'll tell you, I said, if you just try to hold your breath for a minute and a half and see how difficult that is, you'll know, that it makes a big difference. And especially when you need a police officer at that time. And so I just want to thank the council for the consideration and understanding that this is a goal. I know you're looking at your citizenry and the residents, and they've spoken about this, but it's going to really help, I think, our service delivery to our citizens and to also the officers that are here doing the actual work for your support. So thank you.
Chief, I was just going to say, I commend you and your department for all the steps they've taken to help our community in this very difficult time. I think one of your biggest challenges this coming year is going to be trying to make sure that, and I know you will, focus on getting the best officers that you can, given the fact that you need them now. You follow me? So I think really putting the proper steps in place and making sure we get good young officers coming into the department, I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for the new chief coming in, is how do we get these good young officers? How do we attract them to come here to Los Alamitos, given the fact that our pay isn't the highest in the county? So I commend you what you've been doing, and know that the current force will be doing everything they can, along with the city manager, to make sure we get the best and the brightest young officers coming into our city. So thank you.
Thank you. And if I might, I know that our Captain Byerly had said this to me, is that we don't have a recruitment problem, we have an attraction problem, right? And he said, but here's the attraction problem, is that we have to focus not on so much on salaries and benefits as much as what this mission of this police department is, and the fact that they get to serve a community that supports their police department.
You bet.
And I said, that's the message we got to get out to the folks that we're trying to recruit. And I know we just had a discussion about a whole bunch of testing we did with folks, and just being able to nix people off the list because they didn't meet that kind of quality, and the kind of attitude that we're looking for, in perspective. So, I get that completely. And that's a problem facing all law enforcement agencies.
And this just reminded me about the community supporting the police officers. I was riding around with Sergeant Lee a couple of Fridays ago, and it was like he was a celebrity. Everyone was waving at him. I mean, it was great. He said this community is just awesome, that everyone really, gives him, nobody gives him the single finger salute.
Yeah.
They all give him the full wave and thumbs up, and it was really neat to see, actually.
And Chief, one thing I'd like, and I know you're real familiar with the program, and probably adding it on to a program goal for the police department, is the PIY program that they have in La Palma, the police
Interaction with Youth.
And it's a formalized, it's a 10-week program targeting sixth graders of interacting with police. And I honestly believe that if we can get that positive reinforcement at that age, then moving into junior high and high school, and it's a neat program, and I don't know if that's something that as we get fully staffed, that we can task the SRO to do that at the different elementary, or actually it would be at the 2 middle schools for sixth grade. But it just seems to have some really positive, where they have the one-on-one with the police officers.
For those of you that are not familiar with it, when DARE went away for most cities, I was a captain, and we went without being involved in the school for 1 year at La Palma. And so my chief asked me, he said, hey, we got to figure out some sort of program to put together to get connected to the school, because they're asking for it. And so I did what all good captains do. I reached down to a sergeant or a corporal, and I asked him, I said, hey, listen, I said, you used to be the DARE officer when he was a Marine, that was a DARE officer around the Marine bases, at the schools that the Marine kids, children of the Marines would attend. And I said, here's what I would like to see the program be. Like, what kind of things, not just drugs and gangs, but because in most cities, I mean, like La Palma, you're probably not going to have, you don't have any entrenched gangs, and nor does Los Alamitos. You have drug problems because that spans everybody, right? But I said, well, what things will get children in trouble? What are the things kids typically get involved in? He goes, like, what do you mean? And I said, well, like, let's do a section on things that roll. And I said, like, skateboards, scooters, bicycles, and cover a safety, talk on that for 1 week. And so, and then things that go bang, like firecrackers, and guns and gun safety and all this stuff, why you don't want to touch them as children and all this stuff. So as we started coming up with this curriculum, we put it together a 10-week curriculum, passed it over, and in La Palma, they have 3 different school districts in there. So we had to get it past 3 different, superintendents and approve the ideas that we had, and they did. And then we started teaching that, and it was really well received, because most of the teachers said these are the things that they always get in trouble over, and there was a number of issues, and just like petty theft and all these. So it was a decision-making model based on the kinds of things that kids always have problems making the correct decisions over, because they're youth. And we treated it that way. And so Julian Gonzalez was actually this guy that worked there, and he did this, and he did an outstanding job, and it was a great tool for us to recruit some of our explorers in the future, because they had such a great relationship with him.
Yeah,
and we'll do that.
It was definitely out of the box thinking, as far as, and even if we wanted to explore it about doing a partnership with the school district, the way the La Palma has funded over the past couple of years is through their community foundation.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it just hits, we'd have to hit 1 school district and 2 middle schools. So it's just, we need to start changing that message at an earlier age about who the police are and what they're all about.
It's the right time for it. I mean, even nationally, if you see what's going on, and there's a educational bill by law enforcement right now with Reggie Joyner Sawyer and Cal Chiefs that's putting together about the degree of raising the level or bar for new police officers, right? But part of that package is actually starting a formal recruitment and connecting with the schools at an even younger age, not recruiting them out of elementary school, but actually making some formal way of trying to getting those kids involved. And I thought, and this is like perfect timing, because that's what we could do. We could do a police interaction with the youth here at Los Alamitos, and it's an easy program to put together. And like you said, the funding from it was from something called 2020 at one time, and youth, and then the Youth 2020. And so we could do the same. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We can just put it in place.
Great, thank you.
I had one question. You mentioned overtime. Now, is that because of the staff shortage, or is that because I know a couple of officers, I'm related to a couple, and if they've got a big trip coming up or they got something, they'll be like, I'm just going to work overtime. So is it more staffing, or is it to kind of pad the salary that they're?
Well, I was going to say, overtime is that's the one thing as a manager you can control. It's one of the management controls is overtime. Nobody gets to decide to work more overtime to make more money. There's ways in certain professions where I've seen them do this, with sick time, vacation time.
Mm-hmm.
But with us, it's simply because of shortages of personnel that people are working, they usually work 3 12 shifts, right?
Yeah.
And one, what we call E shift a month. Well, they're having to work 3 E shifts a month to cover this. So they're really working almost like an entire whole week,
Right.
extra.
Well, see, my point is not so much, that they're making this money, it's how much money is being spent on it, and if that could be reallocated to maybe increase a base rate or I don't know how the pay scales work,
Yeah.
but if that were something that could be looked at, because I know that although we don't want people to come for money, I mean, you're young and you're starting a family and you live in California, money is definitely
Right.
a consideration. So that's more so with my HR hat on, more so my thinking than they trying to get these pennies. No, it's how much is it, and would it make a difference to kind of spread it differently? Could we attract more people that way?
I'm sure with Craig's help and the city manager, they can really dial in on the numbers and look at what that actually is. I know one of the things it'll help us for is like bike patrol, because we can't take a guy out of a car and put him on a bike, because if you need him at your call, he's going to be riding across the city. It's only 2 square miles, but he's going to not show up with all of his equipment, So we put those guys in overtime, but we're able to do that because we have enough people working on that shift, and then we're able to bring those folks in. So it's a reallocation of some of that overtime budget, but you're right. I think once you're up at fully staffed, then there is those opportunities.
But Chief, it's fair to say, as we see new officers coming in, we should see the overall overtime start to drop. Fair?
Right. I think once you're at full complement, you're right.
There you go.
Yeah. And it doesn't really start until about then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did Chief take the longest?
I've been
Always.
blocking him, sir, and we're going to talk about
You
it.
can't help himself. You just can't.
He is thorough. Leave that man alone.
Just kidding.
So to summarize the staffing changes in the proposed budget, on the full-time side, the city currently has 51 full-time total position count. This includes 5 frozen positions. The proposed budget returns those 5 previously frozen positions, as well as adding 5 new positions, which will be focused on effective management and delivering of upcoming projects and operations. This brings the total full-time budgeted positions to 56. On the permanent part-time side, the city currently has 20 permanent part-time positions, including 2 frozen positions. The proposed budget returns 1 of the 2 previously frozen positions, as well as adding 3 new positions. This will bring the total permanent part-time budgeted positions count to 22. For the total proposed expenditures for fiscal year 21-22, looking at an estimate of $16.7 million. And up next is the draft capital improvement program.
All right, I'm just going to quickly go over the draft CIP. So the first slide here shows some of the, I'm not going to go over every single line item, but this slide basically shows where our funding is coming from. So I want to point out that all of this funding is Most of it is non-general fund. So of course, CDBG, gas tax, and Measure M. And again, the bulk of these drafts capital improvement program is to fix or improve our infrastructure. We go to the next slide. Again, it shows the different funding source, and at the bottom there, you can see that out of the approximately $1.6 million overall budget for the CIP, approximately $243,000 is coming out of general fund. So approximately 1.39 or 1.4 is coming out of other funds. It is a very ambitious project or a slate of programs that we're going to do. We annually do approximately 350,000 for the past several years in CIP projects. So we're bumping that up, of course, to 1.6. But I am very, very confident that the team here can do that. And, it doesn't, I'm going to throw a joke up here. I'm trying to become more funny, but, Chet's in my office cracking a whip at me every day, making sure that I get where I need to go. You like how I preface that, right? Yeah, anyways.
When you tell us you're trying to be funny, it kind of takes away.
Don't announce
I remember those.
No, I'm going to laugh because I'm sleepy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I remember those Santa jokes that you broached out for the Winter Wonderland.
I can start doing that every meeting if you want. They were terrible, but I was proud of it.
I'll start a recall. Oh, poor bad jokes.
That's what they are, dad jokes.
Those are glorious.
Totally open to interpretation.
We're getting punchy.
Go ahead, Craig. Sorry. I'm sorry that they cannot keep their professionalism together just because it's getting late.
So to summarize the projected budget for fiscal year 21-22, proposed revenues of $18,879,068, proposed expenditures $16,660,928, estimated surplus before the recommended actions is $2,218,140. On a 5-year forecast, we're looking at $2.2 million in fiscal year 21-22 for the projected surplus. That's before any other program cost, and that increases as you go forward to 2.6, 2.7, out to 2.8 million in forecast year 25, 26, year 5. Some additional recommended actions for council's consideration is the Los Alamitos Residential Street Initiative. Through the targeted investment of measure-wide general fund revenues, this would initiate effort to improve the overall condition of the city's residential streets on a citywide basis. This recommended actions to approve the inclusion of a year 1 of the Los Alamitos Residential Street Initiative in fiscal year 21-22. The year 1 projected cost is $1,248,615. This
Craig.
Yes.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink just pointed out on the totals on this image, bottom right yellow square or rectangle. It says the total is 1.829, and your last slide said it was 1.2 something.
Mr. Mayor, if I can address that, actually. So if you'll direct your attention to the map, there is the projects that are within District 3. Those would be funded through alternative sources, not general fund dollars. So they would fit into, I believe, gas.
CDBG.
Yes.
CDBG.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the idea there, again, is we're trying to do everything we can to offset the use of general fund dollars. If we can find a way that we can make a definition work to our advantage, if we can identify projects that fall within whatever the guidelines are, then we'll try to tackle that money first and leave that money, the other general fund dollars, available for other projects. This map is just to show that we're spreading these projects across the city and across districts. They're not being focused in just one area. So that's the reason for the discrepancy.
Is there any? Sorry.
I'm sorry, I did have one question, and I brought it up before, but as this map becomes more and more public, I'm getting more and more questions in, and I'm going to be self-serving in my district. So the majority of this is in New Dutch.
Yes.
And I'm getting questioned over and over and over again, why isn't Bennington on there? Because from what I understand from the residents, Bennington is in the worst shape of all of these streets, because that is the cut-through street to get into Carrier Row. I mean, these other streets are used, but Bennington is the racetrack to get into the neighborhood. So I just want to make sure, and if that's not the case, that these streets are in worse condition, I just need to know so I have some sort of response back to the people in New Dutch about why Bennington isn't even on this list, because they said they've been waiting for years to get that street repaved.
Of course. So what we can do is that, along with all of these projects and all the definition borders and everything, these are, I think, what I would call this is where we intend to do the work today. However, much like the project list that we had from before, where we would be moving projects up based on grant funding or moving projects down based on grant funding, Bennington is definitely one that we can put into the mix and try to see where exactly it will fall. And then, given the fact that it sounds like a priority, obviously try to move that to the top of the list, either for funding for this year or funding in, 2022, 2023. But yes.
Right, because like I say, as this becomes published more, this to them is set in stone. So they're saying, well, why did you forget us? And it's like, well, it's not, but I just want to make sure that I'm communicating the right information to them.
Yes, ma'am. And also, I'll say too that each one of these projects, while they are, obviously they're defined within the scope that we have put them on here, there's going to be changes to this, and each one of these project scopes will be brought back to the city council for authorization when we go out to bid. So there will be another opportunity to, again, to add in streets or remove streets that we don't think actually need to happen today or that we can move to another year.
Okay, great, thank you.
So a question for the city manager here. So if I'm understanding what you're asking us to do tonight is to approve under, make sure I got the right letter here, under A, so it'd be 11A, the recommendations 1 through 7 to actually approve the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I know you've given us all this extra stuff here. I'm just trying to figure out what you're asking of for action on tonight.
So the action items tonight would be the approval of the budget as stands. If the council is agreeable to add in the Los Alamitos Residential Street Initiative, which is this additional $1.2 million, we would add that to the CIP list. So that would be one that we would include. The other two actions that are being contemplated or are being submitted to the council for consideration, those don't actually have a dollar amount attached to them at the moment. They are more what I'll call not research, but they need additional action before they can be brought forward to the council for consideration. Craig will go over those in the next 2 slides. So the recommended action for tonight, is the approval of the budget with the staffing plan that has been submitted, as well as the recommended action with regards to the street initiative.
So it's everything that's included in the 18 million, which is noted in recommendations 1 through 7. That covers the 18 million. Then you've got the 16 million that's covered on the expenditure side. And then you're adding to the capital improvements program 1.248615 million based on what you've already explained to us.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I got ahead of him, but I think Craig's next slide actually gets to that. So I'm sorry.
Well,
Let me get there. Oops. Okay, so to repeat, the proposed revenues are 18.9 million, proposed expenditure 16.7. The surplus before the recommended additional action is 2.2 million. The council recommended action for the residential street program year 1, adding the 1.2 million, would bring the estimated surplus for fiscal year 21-22 to about 969,000.
we need more time on these. Yeah, we need more time on these extras.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, and some additional considerations, as the city manager referenced. These are for council future considerations. One is to the development of a Los Alamitos early PERS UAL paydown plan. Obviously, the rising pension costs continue to be an area of concern for all municipalities. While the city of Los Alamitos has achieved, on average, a full funded rate of just under 80%, there is the potential to address this issue in order to generate future cost savings. The recommended action here is to request the Budget Standing Committee to study and review the different options available to the city in order to determine the feasibility of an early paydown per UAL plan and develop future needed policies in this regard.
If I may, Mayor Pro Tem Council, this is, I think it's again, a lofty goal, but I think it's one that's important, especially to look at where exactly not only we can keep our commitments to the debt that we've incurred, but also look for ways that we can save money in the future. I'll be the first to say that this is not an easy issue to tackle. There's a number of different components that go into it, not to mention where exactly you're getting your information from in order to make those decisions. A lot of this information is generated by CalPERS, and CalPERS obviously has an agenda and has a focus on where exactly they're trying to get in life. We need to make sure that the information that we're analyzing is our own, without that bias, without the, I'll say it, the influences of different agencies and such. And so taking this information, doing our own actuarial study, being able to really look at what exactly the options are that are available to us, dissecting them, and then really taking the time to really plot out a plan so that we're able to realize the savings that we think we're going to, that we think we should at the end of the day. This will be some heady work. There are a number of different options, but again, worthwhile doing. Okay.
Sounds good. I mean, I think we've talked about this during our budget standing meetings. I think we would love the idea of paying down this debt early. We just need data to know whether it makes sense, how long it would take, what the extra payments would be, how much we would save. A lot of data needs to come back before the council can make a decision. So this is definitely not something we're deciding on today, other than, I think, getting more data and studying it more.
Yeah, I would just say, I like the idea of staff doing the research work and then presenting it to the Budget Standing Committee to review, and maybe at the same time, the balance of the council would just get some information. So we're kind of being brought up to speed slowly, but let the Budget Standing Committee do, I think, most of the work to present some analysis of how this will work.
Okay. Sounds good.
One of the additional considerations is in connection with the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. The passage of the plan, Los Alamitos is now anticipated to receive up to $2.7 million in this federal funding over the next 2 fiscal years. While the final regulations have not yet been released, staff has already begun work on establishing different qualified uses and economic development programs for the use of these funds.
Yeah.
There's no action needed at this time. Once the final regulations have been established, staff will be presenting the options for qualified expenditures back to the Budget Standing Committee for evaluation, and will return item to the entire council for future consideration.
And again, this is more of an information piece for the council, just to let you know that it is something that we're working on. I know Ron and Craig have already spent this money 5 times over. So we'll be able to present a number of ideas to the Budget Standing Committee to then bring back to the council for consideration. But I do see economic development being one of the main focuses as we move forward. And I think that actually...
That completes it.
Yes.
Mayor, if you need a motion, I'll put a motion on the floor that the council...
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Oh, that's right. I don't see
Other,
any public.
Yeah. If there's anyone in the public who would like to make any comments on this agenda item, feel free.
Mr. Mayor, for the record, we did not receive any written testimony either.
Okay. And there's no one in the audience wishing to speak either. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll move that the council approve the budget, which is 11A, recommendations 1 through 7, with the addition of the council recommended action plan, RSP 1 year $1,248,615, and that we take action to approve the other 3 recommendations that came from staff and refer those to the Standing Budget Committee for further recommendation to the City Council.
I don't have to repeat it. I'll second if that was. I just can't repeat it. Run the tape back, Wendy. I'll second.
Do we do a roll call or?
Just a vote.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? No one is opposed. Item passes. Next, we'll move on to item 11B, Ordinance 2021, amending Title 17 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code. This one looks like it's going to Ron.
Evening again. Really quick, it's getting late, so I'm just gonna, again, stop me if you have any questions. But Title 17 of the Muni Code, known as the zoning code, was updated in November of 2019. We'd like to say that it's a fluid document, as staff will identify some, revision needed. And so we are presenting this to council, some of the language revision. There's nothing in here that is a big revision. Again, it's mostly for Code 17 language revision, and it's documented here in the table in your staff report. But we have gone to the Planning Commission in March of this year, and they have reviewed it. We have discussed it at that level, and they are recommending the changes to City Council for approval. So if there's any specific item that council wants to discuss, that concludes my staff report.
Anyone have any questions? Can we get a motion?
Motion.
Mayor, if I could, may I need to read the...
Oh, my
Gotta be
apologies.
quicker than that.
I know, early. You got to stay on your toes here. It's late.
If I could, before the City Council for consideration this evening is ordinance number 2021-02, entitled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Los Alamitos, California, amending Title 17 of the Los Alamitos Municipal Code to correct clerical errors and omissions and to maintain internal consistency. This is ZOA 21-01, city initiated.
And Mr. Mayor, for the record, this is also a public hearing. There's no one in the audience, and we received no written testimony.
Excellent, thank you.
Now I can motion?
Now you can.
A motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is 12A, street curb address painting contract for 2021.
Evening again. So every couple years, starting in November of 23, City Council adopted a resolution to allow nonprofit organizations to repaint the street address curbs along in the city of Los Alamitos. Again, the reason why we stated in the staff report, the reason why we paint those is to allow emergency personnel to quickly identify an address in times of emergency. And so, again, we go out every 2 years, we send out a letter to all the nonprofits, and then for the past several years, we've only had really one nonprofit submit a bid, and that is Canning Hunger. And they've been doing it for the past several years. It's on a strictly donation basis. The city does not incur any fees to Canning Hunger. And what they do is there's a process where they submit a letter stating that we're coming in on approval of the city council on these dates. It's usually about 90 days. That is a work project. And then they come in and then they paint it, and then anyone can mail in a donation at that time. And if there's any errors, they will come back and redo the errors. This year, we're proposing something along, again, with the beautification of the city, is to provide every street address with a branding of the city. And so we have some neighboring cities and cities up and down Southern California that does that, again, to beautify their city and to, again, promote the greatness of Los Alamitos, I like to say. So before council is some options there as one of the attachments. We work together with Canning Hunger to come up with these. There's a lot of stipulations because, they want to do it quick and easy. at the same time make it easily readable from the street label, from the street side. So the only thing that the city's going to incur is the Canning Hunger has requested the city to purchase the stencil design for the two whatever logo that the council chooses. And so right now, the two stencil design will be approximately $750, and then everything else Canning Hunger does. So they will go out there and do that for every street address in the city of Los Alamitos, again, on a donation fee basis. So that concludes the report. Again, we can discuss the option. Again, attachment 3 showcase the two options and the two color design. And again, we're requesting council to choose an option, whether it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and to, of course, approve the
Does the
action
price
on the
change
report.
if it's a single color, or it doesn't matter, $750 regardless?
Doesn't matter, because it's the stencil, it's
But I
the
want
making of the
3
stencil.
colors. I want 4, make it 9.
All right, is there a way to put this up on the screen, just in case anyone's watching, they can
Oh, yeah.
see? Otherwise, we're just talking in the abstract.
And while we're doing that, I have 2 quick questions for you.
Okay.
This Canning Hunger, we've used them before, and they were successful 2 years ago when they were involved in this. Is that fair to say?
In your terms of successful, it means that they did a decent job painting the curbs in Los Alamitos. The answer is yes.
I heard, I reached out to some residents in connection with reviewing this, and I got positive feedback about
Good.
their service.
Second question is, why did we come up with a resolution that's dated, 2003 here? What's this all about? Where'd you get this resolution?
This is I think this is the original one.
The original one?
That's the original resolution allowing a nonprofit to come in every 2 years to paint the street curb.
Okay, so it would be a different resolution for this particular contractor, or will you do a separate contract? Where are you going from here? Because when you include this resolution, you're thinking that we're tentatively approving a similar resolution.
I believe we're not approving a resolution tonight. The resolution was just the information saying
Okay.
why we do this every 2 years. It was council initiated in 2003. We're approving the authority of Canning Hunger to proceed with the project to do street curb painting. And because they're doing that, again, in the staff report, it details that you authorize the city manager to waive like encroachment fees.
Sure,
and stuff
no
like that.
problem.
Yeah.
But I guess where I'm going with this is, I assume there will be some kind of an agreement written with them to outline the procedures and the guarantees and the insurance and all the standard stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And you're prepared to take care of that based on primarily, I'm assuming, the agreement we did 2 years ago with them?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Adding the stencil design in,
Sure.
the logo and the color and et cetera.
Yeah, I'd also surveyed some of my neighborhood too, and from personal experience, they do a great job. They're in and out, and I've heard no complaints about it. I think ours has a palm tree on it, but I do like the
Wow.
branding of the La Salle, and I'm open for any of the 4.
And just to make things more difficult, I'll, because I know everyone's in a hurry to go home.
You're going to buy me dinner.
No, so I asked a number of neighbors and residents that I know, and I just sent them this image via text, and I said, "Which one do you like?" And I was a little bit on the fence too about whether I like the idea of having it say Los Al. I didn't give any of them that option, and more than half of them wrote back and said, "Do we really need the Los Al?" They'd like just the numbers alone. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that, it's not my strong opinion we need to do that. But I do think we are going to hear from some people that, something new, people always question it. They're going to say, why didn't we just do numbers? So just thought I'd mention it. And I'm willing to be shot down by everybody else. I have no problem with that.
Good.
All right.
I could go Los Al. Go Los Al. I don't like the one that turns down, though. I don't know why. I prefer the one that tilts up.
You don't like the bottom two?
Yeah, no, I don't. have any specific
agree.
reason except maybe hunger.
Facing down.
But the two that go
Rather
up,
have them facing up.
because we're headed up.
I agree
Huh,
with
babes?
facing up.
Let's
I
do
agree.
it.
But what's the design, like, what's that font? Is that like a modern type font? Is that like an 80s type font? I'm trying to understand.
That's a Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, it is.
Look, I have no design skills or style,
I
so
don't either.
I may be the wrong person to be asking this.
When we
this
first
stuff.
were going through the design process, we had a little bit more intricate design. And again, Canning Hunger, with the speed at what they do and the stencil, they said that it was very difficult. So again, the goal of the curb painting is to make it quick when they're doing application, but also easy to read, right? Because first thing we did, we showed them our seal, and they're like, "There's no way,
Right.
There's absolutely no way,
Yeah.
right?" And then and then we talked about Los Alamitos, but again, Los Alamitos is a long.
Yeah.
They said you want something that's quick for them to paint, but also really easy to read. So then after going back and forth, like I even wanted some sort of border around it. They said no, that's just too fine to do. So again. We're basing the design on the experience of Canning Hunger because they do it. They've done it in Los Al, but they also do this in other cities.
Right.
So it's based on their experience. So these are the two design and the two colors that they recommend.
If we keep it all one color, can they lower the price?
No.
Yeah, I asked about the screen.
Yeah, no. Remember, the stencil is actually just a stencil. It doesn't matter the paint or anything like that.
Oh, they do the.
Is there sorry for overthinking this probably, because I should just go with whatever the group thinks, but is there a chance this looks cheesy and people say, why did we do that? Why do we have the words Los Al on here?
I've worked here for 20 years, and I think every one of the people sitting here will tell you that there's going to be some people that love it.
Yeah.
There's going to be some people that don't like it, and there's some people that's like, whatever.
Yeah,
So you're
true.
going to hear it from all sorts. Again, the motive here is
Recall
to
the mayor.
brand. Yeah. It's to brand the city,
It'll be too late. I'll be done by the time you.
I like it.
to
but
beautify
can
it, and if someone complains, I'll take Sergeant Lee's advice and buy him a breakfast burrito.
Sounds good.
I tend to like number 2 just because, I mean, I like the idea of the branding, and as you say, some people are going to love it, hate it.
Yeah.
But I like number 2 because then at least we're not conflicting with any house colors or landscaping colors. I mean, the greenhouse with the blue Los Al, I think the one color for ease of them, it's going to be a much faster stencil. So
You like number 2, Shelley?
I like number 2.
I like it too, but I like the long tail for Los, but the long, and I understand it's because it's a capitalized letter, but the tail on the A, would they be able to edit that? That looks a little more like complicated to read. Like maybe cut that off and then it's just Los Al, or do you have to do it because of the font that they used?
You're the one
I would
that
assume you could just
should-
slap a piece of tape
Art
on there.
contest. We got to get you in here.
I'll just paint white over your tail.
I play with fonts all the time, okay, people. So.
And how can teenagers mess with this and make it inappropriate? That's another thing we have to think about. Is that a possibility here?
I don't know. Tell us.
Do we need some parenting classes?
I think, you'll have some people like, they're a huge Dodger fan, and
Why?
they're like, well, yeah, I don't know. I question that every day, but,
good.
we went over there. we went over there, we were going over and we paint their Dodger sign with Los Al. They're going to be upset and they're going to go back out there the very next day and repaint their Dodger sign on it. So you're going to see people like that. So, you're going to, again, the idea of this is to brand the city. And again, the idea of this is to beautify the city. I know there's going to be people that are going to probably disagree with the term beautification, but again, this is
It is
to brand the
beautiful.
city.
So before we overthink this any more than we already
I
have.
like number 2.
Yep, I'll make a motion for number 2 and a can of white paint for the people that don't like the tail. Just number 2.
Speaking for design, we can remove that tail.
It's my quirk, and I'm going to pull a mayor here. If I'm the only one that has it, I will defer.
Got Los Al.
Mm-hmm.
Got number 2.
Number 2, with or without the tail? On the A, right?
Just on the, I like it on the L, but it just seems a bit much on the, don't look at me like that. Whoever messes with me next is buying me dinner. Okay.
All right, I'll buy you dinner. I like the tail.
Matches, though. Without it, it looks a little weird. It looks
Yeah.
like, it just doesn't look consistent, you know?
You got a 10-piece chicken nugget at McDonald's. We're keeping the tail.
I'm not going to dinner with you anymore.
So we got number two.
Number two.
Oh, okay.
All right, that's my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
More time on
Number
this
two
than the
it is.
budget.
And we are adjourned at 9:11.
Or 8 o'clock Hawaii time.
Oh, my word.
Thank you, everyone. Apologies for my colleagues.
Apologize.